Oh, right, good. Apparently it affects the old incinerator.
Yes.
Chairman, it's 10 o'clock. I'll just get confirmation when we've started the live stream. Are you happy for that?
Yes, thank you.
Just had confirmation that we are live, Chairman. The live stream has commenced.
Thank you very much, Rowena. Right, good morning everybody. Welcome to this virtual meeting of the Central Sub-Area Committee. Before consideration of today's business, I'll outline the protocols for the meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed to the public via Microsoft Teams and is also being recorded. When members are speaking, they may choose to use their video. If the Council's live stream fails during the meeting and we cannot share the proceedings, I will adjourn the meeting so that access can be restored. If the issue cannot be resolved, I will halt the meeting and the remaining business will be concluded at a future date. If a member experiences a technical issue, I will adjourn for a short period to try to re-establish their connection. As I call members to speak, I will remind you to switch on your microphone. If for some reason you cannot be heard, the Democratic officer will advise you. The vote will be taken verbally by roll call and the result announced by the Democratic Services Officer. Members must be present for the duration of the discussion on each planning application in order to be able to vote. We have public speakers at the meeting today and they will be joining the meeting by telephone. Where a member has declared a non-registerable interest, a disclosable pecuniary interest, or an interest by virtue of any trade union membership in a matter, they must leave the virtual meeting. Their departure will be confirmed and they'll be invited to rejoin the meeting at the appropriate time. To confirm the procedure for today's meeting is that members of the committee who wish to speak on an item should indicate by using the X in the chat box. That's the end of the announcement. Before we start today's business, I will ask the Democratic Services Officer to ask committee members to confirm they are present and state their electoral division.
Thank you, Chairman. I will now call your name. Please, can you confirm your name and your electoral division member? Councillor Alvey.
Good morning, Martin Alvey, member for Field and Plain Place.
Thank you. Councillor Batters.
Good morning, Chris Batters, divisional member for Llanivit Blisland area.
Thank you. Councillor Bull.
Good morning, Jackie Bull, member for St Austell Poltaire division.
Thank you. Councillor Dyer.
Yeah, John Dyer, Chasewater, Kenwyn, and the great area of Baldew.
Thank you. Councillor Greenslade.
Good morning, everyone. Fred Greenslade, St Dennis and Nanpan division.
Thank you. Councillor Jewell.
Good morning, Councillor Alan Jewell, Falmouth Boslowick.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
Good morning, everybody. Joanna Kenny, Newquay Pentire.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Good morning, John Martin, Councillor for Helston South.
Thank you. Councillor Mould.
Good morning, Carol Mould, Cornwall Councillor for the St Minver and St Endelian division.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Good morning, Councillor John Thomas, electoral divisional member for Lanner and Stithins.
Councillor Tudor.
Morning, Councillor Tudor, Councillor for Three Milestone and Galloway.
Councillor Williams.
Good morning, Peter Williams, councillor for Mabe, St Gluvius and the Perrin and Wardle parishes.
Thank you. Attending as a substitute, we have Councillor Simmons.
Yes, good morning, John Simmons, Penryn East and Moyler.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I can also confirm that the following officers are present. Matt Stevenson, Development Management Group Leader. Gavin Smith, Development Management Group Leader. Nigel Braben, Senior Development Officer. Sophie Rogers, Development Officer. Ellie Jolliffe, Development Officer. Loretta Commons, Legal Officer. Myself, Emma Code, Democratic Officer. And meeting producer today is Rowena Brebner. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We move on to the agenda then, and item 1 are apologies. Are there any apologies, please, Emma?
Thank you, Chairman. Today we have apologies from Councillor Brown and Councillor May, and attending as substitute for Councillor May is Councillor John Simmons.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, are there any declaration of interest, please, members? No? Then thank you. We move on to agenda item 3, which are the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 2nd of November. For accuracy only, can I have a proposer, please?
Yes,
Chris Batters proposed to do it.
Thank you. Proposed by Councillor Batters, and a seconder.
if you want.
Is that Councillor Dyer, I believe?
Yeah.
Thank you. So proposed by Councillor Batters, seconded by Councillor Dyer. Do you wish to take it as a roll call, Emma?
Yeah, I'll run through the names very quickly. Councillor Alvey.
4.
Councillor Batters.
4.
Councillor Bull.
4.
Councillor Dyer.
4.
Councillor Greenslade.
4.
Councillor Jewell.
4.
Councillor Kenny.
4.
Councillor Martin.
4.
Councillor Mould.
4.
Councillor Thomas.
4.
Councillor Tudor.
4.
Councillor Williams.
4.
And Councillor Simmons.
4.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm they have been carried as an accurate record.
Thank you very much, Emma. Right, we move on to the applications for consideration then. And agenda item 4.1 is PA 20042446, Mr. Dan Thompson, Highlands Passage Hill Myler Bridge, erection of 2 dwellings to replace a single dwelling. The case officer is Nigel Braben, who's going to present for us. Please, Nigel.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, yes, we can.
Thank you very much. This is a detailed application for the erection of 2 dwellings to replace a single dwelling in Myler Bridge. Key issues relating to this relates to the overdevelopment of the site and the likely impact on the amenities currently enjoyed by the occupiers of neighbouring residential properties. As you can see from this location plan, the site is actually within the settlement of Myler Bridge, and the cross lines which goes across the kind of the screen relates to the area of outstanding natural beauty. For clarification, we haven't received the comments from the AONB unit. However, this is not always the case, as the site lies within the settlement of Myler Bridge, and we have lots of applications, so they don't always comment on every application. But for clarity, we haven't received a comment on this one. Site, as you can see, is on the eastern side of the village, and it runs up on the east of Passage Hill, where there's development on either side. So that's the context of the site in terms of kind of the density and the kind of the framework of the village in its built form. This shows an important screen really, because the main boundary to the east, as you can see along the screen, is covered in a high sort of level hedge screen, and there's a very clear distinction between the agricultural land and the built form. On this one, you'll see later on an important relationships between the key properties relating around the site where we've had objectors, and a recent development which is just down here, which I'll speak about in a second. This site plan shows a number of things. So we can see the site here as it exists on the left. Now, the development has been approved on the site there, which relates to the approval, which is reported in the report. So that's got planning permission for the development of a single dwelling in the front garden of the existing bungalow. That hasn't been built yet, but that just shows the relationship. So if you go onto the screen with the proposed site plan, you can see the 2 plots, plot 1 and plot 2, and the centrally located within the site, with the access coming through the existing site entrance, and it shows the relationship to the neighbouring properties in terms of the context. This plan was provided by the the applicant, and what it relates to is the angles of the views from the first floor windows, because later on I explain why there's no issues relating to ground floor windows, but these windows shows the angles of the openings. So if you look at it says A there on the center of the screen, it shows that it's got an angled window, and you'll see this in a bit more detail later on. And also on plot 2, there's an angled view which goes out into the countryside. So consideration has been taken into account with the neighbouring properties. This shows the cross section of the development itself. So you see the size of the existing bungalow. It's quite a big bungalow, but it is a big plot, so it covers quite a lot of land. And there is a garage which is to be demolished at the back of the site, which I'll indicate in a second. So in terms of the proposed kind of elevation along the access road into the site, you can see the existing bungalow dotted in red. The property to the right shows the existing property that's been approved but not been built yet. So you can see that the plot 1 sits more or less on the plot, and plot 2 sits towards the back of the site. This shows the kind of detail of the proposal. So we've got a zinc roof, and we've got some timber cladding and some stonework. And if you look at the plot sections, you can see that because of the nature of the plot, there is a step down within the site. Again, see the distance between the existing, the proposed properties and the existing neighbour. This shows the floor plan, just to point out the angled views from the windows have been designed on the first floor. So, and you can see that on both plots, they've got these angled windows. And then also on the first floor, you got ensuite windows, which obviously contain obscure glazing. This shows the access into the site. These were provided by the applicant. So what we can see here on the top photograph is the existing bungalow to be demolished. See the level change as well, which I think is quite important. The access and visibility to the left going down into the village is substandard at the moment, so that's going to be improved. That's shown on the bottom left-hand slide, which will be lowered and cut back. It won't result in the removal of any significant trees. And visibility to the right will be also improved as well, as the actual kind of access will be widened, so you can position the car in a better location. Also, we had no objections from County Highways on this. It shows kind of illustrative detail of how it would look from the Passage Hill. So basically, the top photograph would show if the building that's got permission is constructed and the bungalow in behind, and the other two sort of indicate the 3 units, and the dotted line of the existing bungalow. So the arrows there just relate to the 3 kind of units that are dotted along with the access road in front. This is an important screen to just look at. This provides, sorry, it's a bit blurry, this one, but it's provided from a view to the south, and you can see the red arrow in the top right hand corner shows the application site and the clean sort of kind of distinction between the built form and the open countryside. This is taken across the valley from quite a distance, as you can see in the bottom left hand side. I'm sorry about the quality of the photograph. This is the actual site. So this is where I'm standing on the planning permission that's been granted for the existing property already. So what we've got is the neighbour to the north, which is Shirrin, sorry, and that shows its relationship at the moment with the existing bungalow. This shows the lower side of the bungalow that's been demolished. So again, you see the kind of the way the ground slips away, and basically this will be the rear garden area of the proposed units. So you can see the kind of the tree coverage on the southern elevation, and also the elevation, sorry, the boundary facing out into the countryside. Again, sorry about the blurry screen on this one. This shows the boundary to the south of the site, and just over that kind of hedgerow, which is quite significant, all you can see is the roof of the neighbouring property, and that property is known as Primrose Lodge. That shows the the interesting thing about this screen is just shows kind of the level differences. So we've got the existing bungalow, you're in the garden, the back garden, the proposed buildings, and through kind of the railings, you can see the neighbouring property to the north. This again shows the context of the tree coverage, which is very important, and there's a condition on the if permission is granted, which will protect the screening around there. Now we're moving to the north part of the site, where we got the neighbouring property Shire Rin, where we've had an objection. Note that the gable was actually facing the actual development site, and also the fact that they've got the actual hedge or the fencing has been stepped up because the land steps up. Shows the access road to the existing bungalows. So basically we've got the nearest part of the bungalows to be demolished next to the northern boundary, and the actual, when you look at the plan, the actual footprint of the proposed dwellings is set back further than that, so they're moving the building away from the actual neighbouring property. So that's the kind of access road at the moment, which runs parallel with the northern boundary. This is quite an important slide because it shows the demolition of the garage, which is at the rear of the site, to the right, and the bungalow, and also the importance of this garage on the neighbouring land, which kind of screens the rear garden of the property to the north, known as Shine Rin. This is just a photograph showing the dense hedge to the agricultural land to the east. So when you take everything into account, we've got to consider the balance of considerations. So there's two issues that were raised at the very beginning. The first relates to the odour development of the site. On that point, the buildings have been put in the centre of the site, allowing for good amenity space to the rear, and it's a good private amenity space, and it also allows for a good turning and parking area for each dwelling. And they've got ample parking area. So also in terms of the proposed dwellings and the impact on neighbouring properties, they've been designed in such a way and located in such a way, and combined with the kind of the topography levels of the site, it means that none of the neighbouring properties are overlooked by the proposed development. And as a result, the local plan authority are recommending conditional approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have no speaker from the community in objection, but we do have the Parish Council representative who wishes to speak in objection. That's Councillor David Lansdowne. Councillor Lansdowne, can you hear me? Have you joined us?
Yeah, I can hear you, and I'm ready to participate.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Lansdowne. You have 3 minutes to put your case, and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain. Thank you.
Please, can we stop before we start? When I was watching the presentation from the planning officer, the slides were out of sync on my screen. Were they out of sync on other people's screens? Because I'll be referring to some of those slides, and I need to know that you're seeing what I'm talking about, because I don't have a mouse or anything to indicate anything.
I didn't think they were out of sync. They seemed quite normal to me. What about you, Vice Chairman? How did you feel?
I think everything was in sequence here, Chairman.
Chairman,
Yes.
it's a code democratic officer.
Yes.
I think the live stream does have a second's delay on it, so that may be why he has noticed the delay.
Yeah, I think the best thing is for you to do your 3 minutes, Councillor Lansdowne, and if there are any issues with sync, we'll address them afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, no problem at all. Sorry for that, but yeah, it was a bit weird for me. I'll try not to watch the screen when I start. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Committee, thank you for inviting Milo Parish Council to this meeting. This development has all the hallmarks of speculative development, with the original pre-app proposing a very urbanised development of 5 3-storey houses. Please can we view presentation slide 6. On the left is the approved application for a single 2-storey house and next to the existing bungalow. We supported the application because it left the bungalow untouched, and it fits in with other 2-storey cottages on the roadside of Passage Hill. The 2-storey houses in this application do not. in this application, the driveway is 6 metres wide, clearly wider than Passage Hill itself at 5 metres. It is not wide enough for it is wide enough, sorry, for 2 cars to pass each other all the way to the field at the rear. Can we go to slide 7, please? The cars are shown on dotted areas on the plan that are paved. So the front of these houses are all paving, which is a very urbanising development in this area. Please note how close the side of plot 2 is to the hedge and how neatly trimmed the hedge needs to be. Slide 5, please. The field hedge used to have several mature trees that overhung the garden. These trees have already been removed by the applicant. Public comments about loss of habitat are referring to this. Please note also the house that has been previously built in the field just above. Please show slide 12. The impression the artist's impression does not represent the wide driveway or paving in the plans. Can we go to slide? Can we go to slide 13, please? This is a zoomed and cropped photograph taken from a vantage point across the valley. The yellow arrow is too far to the left. Myler NDP policy 2 classifies the field immediately to the right of the development as strong preference to preserve. Please imagine a 2-storey house positioned tightly against a newly trimmed hedge with the screening from the trees removed. The photo's also been cropped because it doesn't show the prominence of the existing house in that field. This photo has also been zoomed in to avoid showing Myler Clump on the horizon. In reality, this beautiful vista of the creek in the valley and the open countryside to the hills beyond, and the houses are nestled and screened within it. It's an important view of Myler Bridge. We object because it contributes policy 12 in terms of character. This is a line of well-spaced bungalows with shallow roof lines screened by the trees.
3 minutes, Chairman.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Lansdowne. Perhaps you just stay there for a minute in case there are any questions for clarification.
Okay.
Thank you. Committee, are there any questions? Councillor Tudor.
Hi, yeah, sorry, so you just made some reference to some trees being removed, but we've just been told that there's no significant trees being removed. Are you saying that the trees underneath that arrow there are going to be removed?
No, there's trees that have already been removed. If you look further in the documents, there is a photograph of the garage. Particularly the garage is overhung on the Google Earth map that's shown on slide. Let me try and work out which slide it is. If we go back, it's the overall. It's slide 5. If we go back to slide 5, it shows a very large tree overhanging the site in the area of the garage. That tree cannot be there because it's already been removed, and that tree cannot be there if the plot 2 is built in position. Can you move to slide 5?
I think we're on slide 5. Yeah.
Thank you. I got it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So are you of the opinion that it's a preemptive felling then? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. You see that arrow from the proposal with the arrow? It's pointing directly at the tree that's been removed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mould.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Is there anything in the Mylor neighbourhood plan that relates specifically to design and density?
Yes, very much. There's an awful lot. The reason I'm not referring to the plan is because, as the planning officer says, we're at regulation 14, so we've done. We are armed through the referendum, so the plan is not made. So I'm referring it in terms of you've got the public impression and our survey results, which feed into the regulation 14 consultation we've done.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no one else indicating questions. Would you agree, Vice Chairman? Yeah. Hello.
I'm muted. I'm sorry. Could I ask a quick question, please?
Yes, of course.
If I could ask Nigel, are any of the trees that are removed TPO'd, or was it okay to take them down?
None of the trees are covered by a tree preservation order at all.
Thank you.
But we put, there's a condition that's proposed to ensure that they're protected during the course of development.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All clear, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. No further questions, so thank you very much for joining us, Councillor Lansdowne. And we move on now to hearing from Angela Warwick, who is the agent for the application. Can you...
The conditions proposed to ensure that they're protected. Yes.
Thank you. Do we have Ms. Warwick with us?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
I can, and presumably you can hear us. So
I can hear you very clearly, yes.
Good, welcome. You have 3 minutes to put your case, and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to speak. We put there was a pre-application submitted some time ago for 5 dwellings, as mentioned previously, and Tim Marsh advised at the time to drop this to 4 in order to receive officer support. When Situate became involved, the applicant looked at the time, a slightly easier solution for 1 in the garden of the existing, which was approved. Actually, in hindsight, a more comprehensive look at the site made more sense, and the relationship between the existing bungalow and the approved house was odd. And we proposed a scheme which replaces the existing dwelling and proposes an additional house together, and together with the approved, that's 3 dwellings. Now, we've been very mindful of the neighbour impact in the design process, particularly with regard to overlooking. And the windows, it's quite an unusual design, and then the windows have been designed in such a way so that they control the line of sight. I think Nigel referred to that earlier. I would just like to refer you to the question of overdevelopment. Plot 1, the overall plot is 264 square metres, of which the rear private garden is 135 square metres. Plot 2 is in a size of 317 square metres, and the garden, the rear private garden, is 154 square metres. And this is not dissimilar to the the other approved dwelling. So I struggle to see that, they're in very, very good sized plots. As referred to, we're actually proposing 12 parking spaces off-site in total for all 3 dwellings, so there won't be any overspill on adjoining landscape. Landscaping condition, there was some trimming done of hedges along that eastern boundary, but we've talked to Nigel at length about a landscaping plan and replanting of a more substantial hedge along that eastern boundary. With regard to density, it isn't dissimilar to many other small housing developments in the vicinity of the site. I don't think you've got a plan showing them, but number 10 was replaced, number 10 Passage Hill was replaced with 5 dwellings. Number 9 was replaced with 2 dwellings. Land at Bonnyson Close, another 2 dwellings. I could go on. And these are all in the vicinity of this site. So it isn't dissimilar.
30 seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would just draw your attention to the footprint of the bungalow. We aren't, actually this plan shows it. You can see the red line of the footprint of the bungalow. So you can see the relationship quite clearly. Anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Nothing indicated, Chairman.
Chairman, you're on mute.
I am sorry. I'm telling other people to unmute and then forgetting myself. Yeah, are there any questions for clarification, please?
Nothing indicated, Chairman.
No, right.
Chairman, Councillor Jewell has raised his hand.
Oh, right. Councillor Jewell, please ask your question.
Yes, you mentioned that the you're going to do more planting on the eastern boundary. What was removed from that hedge initially? Because one, the parish councillor said that the hedge has been cut down. What was taken down from that hedge?
To my knowledge, there was. I mean, when I went on site, there wasn't a tree there. The hedging was as it is now. These photographs, these Google Earth images, I don't know is the answer. I don't recall a tree being there when I first went on site and looked at the site. But in respect of, I mean, this was raised at the parish council meeting, and the client said that they had trimmed the hedge, but this was well before Situate were involved.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other indications for questions. Confirm that, please, Vice Chairman.
Yes, no indication in the chat box, Chairman.
Thank you, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we move on to our very own Councillor Simmons. Councillor Simmons, you know the rules. You'll be asked to sum up after 5 minutes, please.
Right, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good morning, committee. You've heard here this morning from Councillor Lansdowne, the chair of the Planning Committee. He is also chair of the NDP, speaking against, and Angela Warwick, that has just spoke, the agent, speaking in favour, and both put their views quite well, and I think it's finely balanced myself, but they're there. My objection to this application is from policy 12.2 A, B and C. As the proposed height of one of these dwellings will be 1.7 and the other will be 2 meters higher than the existing bungalow. Development proposal should protect individuals' property from overlooking unreasonable loss of privacy and overshadowing and overbearing. Policy 16.5. The existing garden is a wraparound garden to the existing dwelling. These new dwellings are being shoehorned into this garden, causing a huge loss of amenity space. This goes against the policy. Policy 21C. Only to increase building density where appropriate and consider the character of the surrounding area. Moyler is a rural parish, and this area of Passage Hill over the last 2 years or so have been the victim of planning applications with 2 large extensions and 12 new builds. If this application is approved today, it will make it 14. This is urbanisation of a rural parish. Passage Hill is a narrow hill with no footpaths from the top to the bottom. We would like to keep its identity as a country lane in a rural village. So please, can I ask you not to support this application today? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Simmons, and that was beautifully succinct. Thank you. Are there any questions for clarification, please?
Nothing indicated, Chairman.
No. Thank you, Vice Chairman. Then in that case, thank you very much, Councillor Simmons. And we move on to questions of the Planning Officer, please. Are there any questions for the Planning Officer? And the first cross I've got, Councillor Kenny, would you like to unmute?
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a very quick question on the effect on the neighbours. Some of the pictures showed the neighbours with quite large picture windows, and I wasn't quite sure what their outlook would be. At first sight, it looks like because it's been set back further from the boundary, there won't be a problem, but I just wanted some confirmation on that their outlook they wouldn't have us somewhere right in their beautiful window. Yeah, I think that is the slide there.
Is that the slide you're referring to?
That's a porch, isn't it? So it's
Yeah,
not
that's
really
right.
a picture window.
Yeah.
I take it back. No, I misunderstood what it was. Sorry.
That's fine. Basically, that's the gable end of the neighbour to the north. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Vice Chairman, you've got a question?
Yes, please, Chairman. If I could address to Nigel. I think the sizes of the amenity land and garden, etc., and the car parking spaces well exceed the requirements of the planning rules. So would you say, in your opinion, that these are, as was said, shoehorned in? Because I don't think so myself.
Yeah, it's an interesting point on this, really. What I think the agent was a little bit generous with the size of the actual amenity space, but I would say the most important thing is how usable the space is. And in my calculations, each property would have 70 square meters or 75 square meters of usable space at the rear without interfering with the hedge, which I think is very important. So I think it does satisfy the requirements.
And the parking arrangements certainly do, don't they?
The parking arrangements, in a way, you could call it an over provision, but there's ample and there's good turning space as well.
And could I carry on, Chairman, please?
Yeah, of course you can.
I think I also heard that the agent said that there would be replanting on to strengthen the boundary.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is the condition, the way it's worded, in order to get a survey and to see exactly what landscaping there is at the moment. And so the idea is to protect what we can. And if any additional planting is required, then we would require that to make sure that we don't lose any unnecessary planting.
And that will be written in the condition.
Correct. And there also be a requirement to safeguard the existing planting and hedgerows in terms of when the development's being carried out.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mould, you're next, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My question was about policy 12 and the design and how we actually think this does fit in with A and B. It was difficult because we didn't actually get a view of the wider area and what the design of these either new or other houses are. So I just interested in how we think that actually fits in with the general street scene overall, given the design is very, very modern and very different from anything that I've seen so far.
Yeah, I can answer that. I think in terms of the site itself, it's so well secluded in terms of the boundaries to the site, and I think that's quite important with the boundaries on the roadside and also the boundaries on the kind of protecting the AONB. And then you've got the properties to the north and right. But the most important thing about this development is that the only real context you'll see it from is the access point. So when I'll show you a slide a second just to get an idea of. Although you might argue this is only illustrative, you only really see the site as you approach the entrance, and from distance you'll see a pitched roof, which is traditional. Although it may be zinc, I still think it satisfies the requirements of those policies, to be honest.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions, if I may, please. Councillor Lansdowne raised the point that the building would be too close to the hedge, and I thought from the slide where you could see the buildings further down, there were buildings equally as close, if not closer, to that strong boundary hedge. That's my first question. I wonder if you could answer that one. And my second is, he mentioned about the design of paving being urbanisation, and yet any householder can put paving down at any time, is my understanding. So it's hard to control that. I wonder if you could comment on both those points, please.
Yes, I can do. Yeah. If you look at the screen at the moment, you can see that the red line area of the existing bungalow, and the existing garage is there on the boundary to the kind of the east, and that's probably the boundary which is most important, because that's probably where the building plot 2 is the most close to the boundary. So it's not that much closer than the existing garage is already there. I would say that there's enough space to protect, the existing hedgerow there. There may be disappointment that a tree has been removed, but there was no tree when I was there, so I can't comment on that. In terms of the parking, it is possible
and before you go on to that, can I say I thought there was a slide which showed other buildings equally as close to that boundary. Am I right or wrong? One of
I should try and find this for you. Wait a second.
I thought it was one of the earlier ones. Maybe that one even with the green.
Would that be the slide?
It could be. I mean, would you say there are other buildings equally as close?
Yeah, if you look along the siting of the properties along Passage Hill, you can see that a lot of them are end on with a lot of them are end on with what I call the internal boundary. So that is kind of something which is a characteristic of the area. But in fact, on this site, they've actually got a lot of space between the northern and the southern boundaries. I think the most important boundary, which will be protected because of the condition, is the eastern boundary. So there'll be no impact on that southern boundary where there's lots of vegetation. But in generally speaking, a lot of the buildings are tight to the boundaries.
Right, thank you.
And with regards to the parking, the parking situation is that, you know, you are right that people do tarmac and concrete over their front gardens to provide more parking as their families get bigger and they drive cars. So in fact, we've got this already rather than waiting it to happen probably later on with 3-bedroom properties.
Thank you. Right, thanks very much. I believe Councillor Jewell has raised his hand. Councillor Jewell, did you want to?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, Nigel. Yeah, I got a little question for you in regards to the southern boundary. Bring up that map you showed us earlier with all the line there, please, Martin. Nigel. Not that one up. Showing that outline the properties down that boundary. Up the other way. Keep going.
Photograph.
No, it was like a plan. It was like a plan showing the properties there. Keep going. That's it. The one with the green there. The one with the green, but that one there, like with the green. Next one up. 2 up. What up again?
The same one.
That's lovely. That's the one.
Sorry about that.
So there's been no objections from the property to the south of this development.
But there has been objection from the property to the south. Yes, there has.
There has. Right. Okay.
And the north. Yeah.
Okay, because that's the one that I'm a bit worried about, because they are going to be, like Councillor Simmons says, they're going to be a bit higher. Okay, thank you very much for that. Thank you, Nigel.
Right, I've got no further indication of questions. Would you concur, Vice Chair?
Yes, I can, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now, before we go into debate, I'm just going to go to Matt Stevenson. It would be helpful, I think, if you give the committee a little bit of information on where their subjectivity is on this, what should be concentrated upon, please, in terms of their decisions.
Well, I think it's the 2 issues Nigel raised at the very start of his presentation. So that's character of the area and impact on the neighbours. So it'd be around those 2 issues that you'd need to consider this. Obviously, the principle is acceptable in terms of placing housing on the site within the settlement.
So are we're looking at character, are we looking at whether we consider it to be cramped or not?
Well, again, the case officer set out and the agent also explained the sizes of the plots themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if cramp's a good description in itself in describing harm. The harm would be either to the landscape because of visual impacts or materially affecting neighbours. So I suppose cramped we'd probably call density, and if the density is out of keeping with the area. But I think again the case officer explained how the site's well screened, so not particularly visible either locally or from further distance away.
Okay, right, thank you, Matt, that's helpful. Right, then we move into debate, please. Who wishes to start on this one? Nobody wishes to start. Councillor, I'm not sure if Councillor Jewell or Councillor Kenny came first then.
Councillor Jewell has a hand raised, Chairman.
Right, and I think Councillor Jewell's flashed across the screen before Councillor Kenny's. So Councillor Jewell.
Yeah, I think that this development is, in my mind, one plot too many. I mean, if you go through the history, you can see what they're up to. They're playing the game like developers do. They got permission for one, then they apply for another one, and now they're applying for another one. So where you have one bungalow, now you're going to have 3 houses, and I think 2 would be a bit more suitable. I agree that it's probably meeting the standards for amenity space, but is that suitable in this location, in this village? I think not. I think that it's just one block too many, and we have got objections, as Matt Stevenson said. You know, we've got policies here which it is unneighbourly, and I'll leave it there at the moment. But I think it's just one too many. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we've got Councillor Kenny, please.
Delighted not to be the suicide squad. This is first. Yeah, I understand the concern of the neighbours and the 3, but frankly, I cannot see a good planning reason for turning this down. I sympathise with what Councillor Jewell is saying and what Councillor Simons is saying, but at the end of the day, what policy have we got that would say 3 houses on a good sized plot? No harm to the environment, neighbours not concerned. I just don't think we've got any policies to. So I won't support it because I'm not madly enthusiastic about it. I would support anybody else's motion not to approve it, but I can't say that we've got anything like enough to refuse this.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Councillor Batters, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. I'll follow on from what Councillor Kenny has just said, but I will propose that it's in line with recommendation for support. Simple as that. I can't see any real good reasons to oppose it, certainly not any strong planning reasons. So therefore, I'll propose in accordance with recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Batters. Now, I'm about to ask for a seconder for that, but first I've actually got some names here, so I'm going to go through them first to see if they wished to second. Councillor Mould, did you wish to second the proposal as set up for approval as set out?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to, before I do that, I would just like to say I don't like this design at all, and I completely concur with Councillor Jewell. I think it is one property too many. And we are turning bungalows into houses, and we do have objections in actual fact from either side, and I don't think we should underestimate just how imposing a house being built where there was a bungalow appears. But having said that, given time, these things do blend in, and providing there is no overlooking, and it seems to me that those issues have been mitigated, I am happy to second Councillor Batters, because I do actually think that even if I did propose that we refuse this on policy 12, it isn't actually going to stack up further up the line. So reluctantly, I will second Councillor Batters' proposal, because I do think in the long run we're going to run out of steam on this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mould. Now, before we go to the vote, I do have 2 other hands raised. So first of all, Councillor Tudor.
Thank you. Yeah, I really do sympathise with what Councillor Jewell said, and I was glad of the questions of Councillor Greenslade and some assurance that of the landscaping and hopefully planting, because it looks like preemptive felling happened here. But again, I'm not sure that this development imposes enough. I actually do like the design. I seem to like the design. I mean, if these were houses, say on a persimmon site, we would say that they had an awful lot of land around them. They're wonderful. It's a shame, and I can't see, with a heavy heart, I can't see how we could refuse this.
Thank you. Right, I've got one more speaker, and that's Councillor Thomas.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I think most of it's been said on whether we've got sufficient grounds to refuse this or not. As far as I remember, that area's got different types of buildings, of styles or whatever, and I think we'll be on a sticky wicket if we did decide to refuse this, and go back to one, I think they would easily walk this in appeal. Not that I'm preempting any decision, but I just can't see why we can manage to refuse it, Madam Chairman, and sort of way, and that's the decision they're going to make. So I can't support refusal, Madam Chairman. I'm sorry.
No, well, the proposal is for approval as set out, Councillor Thomas, but we'll come to the vote in just a minute, but thank you. Vice Chair, you're next, please. Would you like to unmute? Vice Chairman?
God, I'm muted. Sorry.
That's all right. I'm glad I'm not
I
the
have
only one.
sympathy with Councillor Jewell and Councillor Simmons, but when we come to the reality of trying to get this to go to appeal, I don't think we've got the grounds to refuse this. Now, it might appear cramped to some people, but when we look at most sites these days, this has adequate provision. It's got 4 spaces per plot, which is unusual, to say the least. I'm hopeful that there will be a strong condition to protect the hedgerows and even improve the planting on the hedgerow. So I find that there's very little that I can hang my hat on to propose refusal. So I'm happy to support, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Greenslade. Now, I'm going to go to the vote, but before I do, Nigel or Matt, you've just heard Councillor Greenslade's point on a strong condition to protect and improve maybe even the hedgerow. Do you consider the condition strong enough, or do you consider it needs strengthening?
Shall I come in then?
Yeah, okay, Matt.
Chair? Yeah, I mean, I think the proposed condition by Nigel really does the job that committee is looking for. So I don't think there's any reason to strengthen that. And obviously, should this get approved, we'd hope that the applicant complies with that condition and doesn't do anything untoward to that boundary in the meantime.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, then I have no further debate indicated. Would you concur, please, Vice Chairman?
Yes, no chat box and no hands raised either, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Then we move to the vote, the vote is for approval as set out. Councillor Batters, perhaps I should just come back to you and say you're quite content to move forward. You don't want any conditions, strengthen, nothing extra.
No, thank you very much, Chair. No, listening to what Matt says, I'm perfectly happy with it. Thank you.
Yeah, and ditto yourself, seconding Councillor Mould.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Right, then we move to the vote. Approval as set out, proposed by Councillor Batters, seconded by Councillor Mould. Emma, would you take the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll call your names alphabetically. Could you please indicate whether you're for, against or abstaining? Councillor Alvey.
For.
Councillor Batters.
For.
Councillor Bull. Councillor Bull. I'll come back. Councillor Dyer.
Against.
Councillor Greenslade.
For.
Councillor Jewell.
Against.
Councillor Kenny.
For.
Councillor Martin.
Against.
Councillor Mould.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor Tudor.
For.
Councillor Williams.
Against.
Councillor Bull.
Yeah, Emma, my apologies. My connection went there briefly. So if it happens again, just give me a moment or two. It seems
Okay,
to sort itself out.
Are you voting for or
yes,
against?
I'm for.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that the motion to approve is being carried by 8 votes in favour with 4 against and no abstentions.
Thank you very much. Then we'll move on and we'll have a comfort break after the next item. But we'll move on to agenda item 4.2, PA 20 05300, Mr. I. Roberts, Appletree Cottage, Lower Fairview Farm, Alec Truro. Change of use of land from agricultural to garden associated with Appletree Cottage. Construction of open-sided garage and retention and alteration to a driveway. Case officer is Sophie Rogers. Are you there and ready to present, please, Sophie?
Yes, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, as the chairman just outlined, the application is for the change of use of agricultural land to a garden associated with Appletree Cottage, construction of an open-sided garage and retention and alterations to the driveway. So the key issues with this application are for the change of use of land. It's going from part of an agricultural field over to domestic land, so for the driveway and for the garage. And the next key issue is the planning history of the site. Originally, the property was a chalet, which a certificate of lawfulness was received with regards to somebody living in the property. They've then had a replacement dwelling. The latest design was approved in 2017, and this proposal relates to additional garden and driveway for this property. As the application site is within the countryside, it has some implications on the character and appearance of the countryside, but I feel that with mitigation proposed through the planted hedge, that this is acceptable on the character of the area. Issues regarding to disturbance to neighbours have been brought up with regards to cars driving along the proposed driveway, but as this is for one residential property, I don't feel that the harm which has been identified by the neighbours is sufficient to warrant refusal, because there's no intensification of any residential use. It's purely cars for one existing house. The ecological and habitat considerations are obviously it's changing part of a field, but the area that is changing the use of is a relatively small area, and there will be habitat gain through the creation of this new planted hedge. With regards to flood risk, the proposal is going to be conditioned to have soakaways to mitigate against any harm for the paved areas. So this is the site within its context. You can see the B road, which is to the north of the site. Short Lanes End Village is down in this southeast corner, and then the A30 is up here. Access comes directly off this road at the moment, and currently outside of this, the red line area, it comes down this lane, and then the entrance to the property is here. So this is a closer up version, so it might actually be easier to see the driveway. So it continues along from this point here off the B road and goes down here along this corner. And this is where the approved parking is in the front garden.
An awful lot of crackling in the background. It's quite hard to hear.
It's not me.
Yeah, somebody sounds like they're unwrapping toffees.
It sounds like someone's eating a bag of crisps.
Yeah, not guilty either. But perhaps we could just be conscious of that, whoever is, and put on mute, please. Thank you. Like to go on, please, Sophie?
Right, so this is an aerial shot of the site. This is where the change of use of land is happening. So at the moment, currently, this is a field, and the planted hedge is proposed to go along this northern part of the red line area around here, and then around the parking area, and then along this eastern side here with a gate here to get so that access is still retained to get into this field. And this is where the existing house has been built, the replacement house. So that's the existing site plan. This is the neighbour Milroy, where concerns have been raised with regards to habitat. This is the proposal. So this is the elevations of the open-sided garage at the top. It's to be sited in the north part of the red line area. And then again, this is this planted hedge where the specifications of the plants are noted on the plan. This is the existing house, and there has been a modification which has been carried out, which is to be regularised as part of this application, and that's this bridge. So the accommodation in the property is a reverse style living. So the bedrooms are on the ground floor, and the living accommodation, so the kitchen and dining area and living area, is on the first floor, and there's a terrace area at the back, and a bridge which you can see on the east elevation and the west elevation. So these are some photographs of the site. This is the existing approved parking area at the front, so there's space for 3 cars. And this is the site. This is where the proposed access is to be retained. This is the bridge. And the trees on the left are part of the boundary treatment for the neighbours at Milroy. Again, this is where the garage is to be located. And this photograph shows the hedge line with the B road, so there will be screening from the B road on the site area. Again, this just shows the access, and that also shows the boundary with Milroy, the neighbouring property. That's looking out onto the driveway, which the cars for the 3 houses already use along here. So, balance of consideration, adequate mitigation for the harm to the countryside and habitat gain is provided with the planted hedge. Neighbour amenity would not be materially affected, and mitigation is included to address flood risk. So on that basis, my recommendation is for conditional approval.
Thank you very much. We do have a resident who wishes to speak in objection. That's Mr. Andrew Keast. Mr. Keast, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yes, good morning, I'm here.
You're very quiet. Would you like to speak again, Mr. Keast? Let's see if we can hear you well enough.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
I don't know about the rest of the committee, but I'm finding that quite quiet and muffled. Perhaps you could speak quite loudly for us. Mr. No, Emma or Rowena, what do you suggest? How are other committee members receiving that?
It's Chairman Rowena Brebner, meeting producer. It does sound quite quiet. Perhaps Mr. Keith could leave the meeting and try dialing in again and see if that makes sense. Chairman Rowena Brebner, meeting producer. It does sound quite quiet. Perhaps Mr. Keith dialing in again.
Hello?
Hello?
Dialing again.
Yeah, I think that's the advice we're getting.
Okay, I'll dial in again. Thank you.
Thank you. How did other members of the committee find that? Vice Chairman, could you hear Mr. Keast?
Very quiet, Chairman, and sort of muffled.
Yeah. I think phone's ringing again by the look of it.
Hello?
Possibly a lot more people using it, Chairman, with the lockdown in process.
Maybe. Hello, Mr. Keast. Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Well, we can hear you a little bit better this time, but I have to say you're quite quiet. So let's proceed. You have 3 minutes. You'll be told when 30 seconds remain, and perhaps you could give us your best loud voice, please.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing my summary objection, and I respectfully urge you to take full account of the detailed facts circulated last Friday in my letter to all members. I believe this application does not meet two crucial planning considerations: a material impact on neighbouring properties, including illegal use of land not in the applicant's right to take, a negative impact on the environment and ecology that is inconsistent with the Council's own climate emergency declaration and planning policies. This is supported by evidence that confirms no legal right of way of the applicants to create a driveway off the private lane. This is a material issue that will directly affect neighbouring properties, so needs, in my view, to be fully disclosed. The formal application contains misleading and factually inaccurate declaration giving an erroneous portrayal of the land. This includes a false ownership certificate and agricultural land declaration, a misleading visual presentation of the applicant's planning appraisal, and no consultation whatsoever undertaken at all with us, contrary to the applicant's statement, nor any consultation undertaken since their refused 2014 pre-app inquiry. The loss of hedges, trees, flora and fauna, the photos I presented in my letter clearly show the extent of hedges, trees and flora that have been removed illegally. This amounts to some 5.5 metres of hedge line and 8 metres of grass verge. A loss of prime agricultural land, the factual history and use of the land is one of agriculture. Apple Tree Cottage and its amenity space, as proposed, is close to double in size compared to the current site. If this application is approved, it will set a precedent that change of use from agricultural land is acceptable. How does this meet the government's announcement today about protecting and enhancing more trees and meadows in its new proposed agricultural policy? This creates an increased visual and noise impact and closer physical proximity. The proposed driveway will be 4 metres from my property. Currently, the existing access lane is 14 metres away. Our tenants living in Milroy suffer from epilepsy that can be adversely affected by noise and vibrations. The applicant's 2015 and 2017 successful planning proposals identified the need to utilise the existing lane to access to the south to avoid visual impact, as highlighted in the 2014 pre-app refusal. In 2015, they stated parking is set into the landscape to avoid prominence, and sufficient private amenity area has been set aside suitably screened to ensure privacy is maintained. And in 2017, they said this would not have an adverse impact on the landscape, nor would it physically extend the settlement. The applicant had opportunity to provide extra parking and amenity space using brownfield land prior to selling Lower Fairview Farm. I believe that this does not meet the various national and local planning policies, including the local plan. This is especially relevant in the area of protecting open green spaces, agricultural land and environmental impact. This application does not concur with Cornwall Council's own climate emergency declaration. This is a devious staged approach to achieve planning approval for a scheme first proposed, although turned down in 2014. Since selling their original property, they now want to separate access to their new property.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keith. Thank you. Your 3 minutes is up. Now, committee members, I'm going to ask if there are any questions for clarification, but I see Councillor Dyer's hand was up. Councillor Dyer, were you asking, did you wish to ask a question of Mr. Keith? Is Councillor Dyer's hand still raised?
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah.
And Councillor Jewell.
Councillor Dyer, can you unmute? Were you wishing to ask a question for clarification?
Yes is the answer.
Right, your question is, please.
The question arises from the difficulties we've had in hearing Mr. Keith's total statement. And I'm going to ask him what consultation the applicant has had with Mr. Keith, as from what I've tried to gather from what you've said, it appears that you've had very little conversation with the applicant here, and the question that arises from that is who owns and controls the lane that's earmarked or drawn in red off the 3284 to get initially into Milroy before it goes on to this plot.
I will allow the question, Councillor Dyer, but I didn't have any difficulty hearing Mr. Keith the second time round. And I think it's important, if other committee members did have great difficulty, that they say.
Chairman, it's in a code, Democratic officer, just to say that I heard the speaker fine.
Yeah, I did as well. Of course, ownership is a civil matter. But would you like to clarify for Councillor Dyer, please, Mr. Keast, on consultation?
Yes, certainly. There's been no consultation whatsoever regarding this planning application. So in the agent's planning appraisal document, it says that they would consult the parish council and local neighbours. No such consultation has been undertaken with us at all, and it was only through sheer luck that we were to find out that a planning application had actually been put in at all. In terms of the ownership of the lane, I know you say that it's a civil matter, but Milroy and my wife and I own that lane, and there has been no agreement whatsoever for the applicant to open up that hedge line to construct the driveway that's proposed.
Understand. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right, the next question is, I believe, Councillor Jewell.
Yes, Madam Chair, and that's just been answered. That question I was going to ask has just been answered. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Tudor, Chairman.
Councillor Tudor.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this planning application has gone through with the parish council, who did recommend approval, though. But my question was, so we saw on the pictures that the space, that area, is already it's already being used, isn't it, for parking? So presumably the cars that would pass your house, Mr. Keast, are already passing it. We're talking about one single property here with the cars going one way.
That is correct. Yes, they are already using it as a hard parking area, even though they have no planning permission to do so.
Great, and nobody's having any health concerns as a result of that presently?
I wouldn't say that at all, no. The tenants that live there are not happy about the application, and the tenants actually wrote in a letter of objection to that very point. So I can't speak to them at this point, but I would say they're against this for those very reasons.
Thank you. Vice Chairman, are there any further hands or indications?
Councillor Dyer has his hand raised, but I'm assuming it's not put down yet.
Yeah, Councillor Dyer, you still have your hand raised. Is that from the earlier question, please?
Chairman, it's Emma Code, Democratic officer. He's now lowered his hand.
Right.
Thank you.
Very much.
Nothing else, Chairman. Nothing else at the moment.
Right. Thank you. Then thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Keast.
Thank you.
And we move on. We have no speaker from the parish council. The next speaker is Emily Robinson, who's the agent for the application. Can you hear us, please, Ms. Robinson?
Chairman, I've had to mute Emily Robinson, so if she could press *6, that will unmute her telephone.
Thank you. Can you hear us, Ms. Robinson? No answer came, the stern reply.
Can you, this is the meeting producer, Emily Robinson, can you press *6? Yes, that looks fine, thank you.
Oh.
Hello. Good.
Hello. Sorry,
Hello.
I pressed star, not the 6.
Okay. Can you hear us?
I can hear you perfectly, yes, thank you.
We can hear you as well. Ms.
Great.
Robinson, you have 3 minutes starting now, and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the committee. As has been set out by Sophie in her presentation, the application is for an open fronted timber carport and driveway on an area of land that adjoins the applicant's recently constructed property known as Apple Tree Cottage. The application also includes a change of use to residential curtilage, yet it should be noted that the land has already been used as such since about 1999, though admittedly no formal consent exists for the use. The wider field has been used by the applicant's family, both during their previous occupation at Lower Fairview, which neighbours the site to the west, and more recently whilst living at Appletree Cottage. Her family has parked cars on the land from time to time, had football posts on it for the children to play, and also has had a vegetable patch on it, which is all evidenced through photographs and aerial imagery supplied with their application. As part of the consent to build their current home, parking was shown to the south, which you see from the photograph Sophie provided, showing the track that shares Lower Fairview and Milroy. But since moving in, the applicant decided they preferred to have an area of covered parking and which is accessed separately from their neighbours. The carport is positioned in the lowest part of the field, as close to the house as possible, which, combined with the mature hedgerow which runs along the road boundary, means views of it will be limited. Also, following the submission of the application, a native planted hedgerow was added along the site's northern boundary at the request of officers in order to help further assimilate the development into its surroundings. There have been no objections from statutory consultees, including the parish, who are, as you know, in support of the application. Objections have, however, been raised by both the owner and tenants of neighbouring property Milroy. The objections, particularly those raised by the owner, Mr. Keith, are extensive, yet many of the issues raised are not planning related and should, in my opinion, be dealt with outside of this committee. Since receiving the objections, considerable efforts have been made by the applicant to reconcile the relations with Mr. Keith, which culminated in us providing a letter in August responding to each of his concerns. You'll note that ownership of the lane is one of the principal disputes. The point he has regrettably started legal proceedings against the applicant. Whilst this is a civil matter, which I believe sits outside the scope of this application, I would like to point out that the applicants do not dispute the fact Mr. Keith owns the lane, and indeed no works are proposed to it, but do dispute the claim that their new driveway would not have a right of access from it. The matter is now unfortunately in the hands of both parties' solicitors, and it is hoped that a resolution can be reached soon. Just also picking up on a couple of points that have been raised by Mr. Keith. From an ecological perspective, no trees, hedgerows or buildings are to be lost, and so there would be no impact in that regard. In actual fact, a new native hedgerow is proposed, which can only further boost the biodiversity within the site. There's no new access location proposed. It is the driveway is using an existing access point in the hedgerow, so there is already a precedent there, and there has been no complaints from the current tenants of Milroy, who I think have actually used the land themselves.
3 minutes, Chairman. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've already got an indication of question for clarification from Vice Chairman, I believe.
Yes, please, Chairman.
Yeah, please go ahead.
If I could ask the agent what the consultation process has been with neighbours and the parish council, because I think I understood Mr. Keith say that there was no consultation at all, and that he was disappointed with that, and yet in the report it says the parish council are in support of the application. So there seems to be some diversity of view on it. So could the agent get her assumption of it, please, how she sees it?
Of course. So in our supporting planning report, we haven't claimed to have consulted with the parish nor neighbours, and that isn't something that has taken place. Most really because Mr. Keith doesn't live at Milroy, it's tenanted, and the field has, like I've said in my speech, has been used by Mr. and Mrs. Roberts for a considerable amount of time, both for parking and for other functions ancillary to the residential use of the land. And so, given the small-scale nature of the development, which is a single story timber open-sided carport, they didn't feel it necessary to consult the neighbours, also by virtue of the fact that there is a considerable distance from the property and where the carport is located, with a significant screening vegetated bund along the northern boundary. So no consultation has been undertaken, but with, we feel, good reason.
Thank you. Right, are there any other questions for clarification of the agent, please?
None indicated, Chairman.
No. Thank you then. Thank you very much for attending. And we move on to our own Councillor Dyer. Councillor Dyer, I'll be asking you to sum up after 5 minutes, please. Thank you. Can you unmute, please, Councillor Dyer?
Right, I'm unmuted.
Lovely. You'll be asked to sum up after 5, please, Councillor Dyer.
Thank you, ma'am. You know my views on that, but
I know.
that they will not be disputed this morning, because I don't think I shall even take 5 minutes. But the issue is, to a certain extent, a civil matter between the applicant and the objector, and that is not one that we as Cornwall Council members can get involved with. And the unfortunate, to me, situation is that they, according to the observations I've heard, have not been in conversation and reached any agreement with each other. So that will have to relate to me, unfortunately, to their solicitors, because I well remember somebody once saying, jaw is better than war, and war costs money. So this is the route they appear to be on, and I suppose, putting it crudely, whichever side wins, I won't. I have sympathy with Mr. Keast and the use of the lane, but if that is proven, then that is over to Mr. Keast. I can't get involved with that, and I'm assuming as well, Madam Chairman, that as local member, I cannot in the end vote on the matter. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, yeah, thank you, ma'am. You've heard the arguments. You've heard them better than I obviously have. I found Mr. Keast very difficult to hear on the system this morning, and I think I know the story fairly well. I've lived in the locality all my life, so I know the situation. It saddens me to see the situation, and I hope they can come to some mutual agreement, or their lawyers do at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dyer. Does anyone have a question for clarification for Councillor Dyer, please? No. Would you confirm, Vice Chairman?
I agree, Chairman.
Thank you. Then we move on to questions of the Planning Officer, please. Are there any questions for the Planning Officer?
There are two.
Thank you. Am I right, Vice Chairman? I've got Councillor Kenny and then Councillor Tudor.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny, would you like to unmute, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question for there's obviously been quite a long planning history for this site, but it has been since 2014. Really, if this was converted to a garden, would there be any opportunity I know we have to look at what we've got in front of us, but if this was granted as a garden, would there be room to put 2 houses on this site? Or are we protected by, I think, policy 12, that you could improve one, or policy 7, whichever one it is, you can improve one house, but you can't actually put 2 houses in this site in the middle of the countryside?
I would say that the site area would be too small to put another house. And the reason why we put the boundary treatment along this north and eastern side would be to contain the proposed domestic curtilage to this area only.
Yeah. And that's quite
also it's not within a sustainable location. It is within the countryside. So even if it becomes garden land, which would be previously developed land, it's not within a sustainable location, which is close to a settlement. So we wouldn't be supporting any further residential use on this land.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Councillor Kenny.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Tudor.
Councillor Kenny asked one of the questions that I think it gives us a bit of a suspicious mind, doesn't it, being on this committee for any length of time. I would just like some sort of clarification of what we should be considering here, because it seems that we're it's a bit messy, isn't it, this one, caught up in a civil matter. So the ward member, I understand Councillor Dyer, has brought this forward to committee for citing neighbourly issues. But the considerations, Sophie, that you showed us right at the beginning of this, but those, it's just what we should be considering. I would just like some more clarification on this. But what is part of the civil matter, which we shouldn't get involved in, and just to outline what we should be thinking about in terms of this application.
Councillor Tudor, of course, I'll allow Sophie to answer that, but I'll also ask Matt to come in before we go into debate on that. So I don't know how you want to play that, Sophie.
Can I just come in there, Jackie? And
yes,
just
all right. Okay.
Clarify? I mean, I think the two main issues, obviously, Sophie set out all of the issues, but the two main issues are really, does this have an adverse impact on the landscape? I think the case officer's gone through clearly how it's quite secluded, with the additional hedgerow also going on the northern side of the boundary. That would obviously increase that seclusion and screen not only the existing property but the proposed garage as well. So there's that issue for you to consider. Secondly, it's the impact on that neighbour to the south of the new proposed access track that will be formalised through this. And whether or not you feel that distance and that heavily sort of screened hedgerow provides enough comfort in your minds that their amenities are protected of that property. So those are the two principal planning issues. As has already been alluded to, the land ownership and the right of access of civil matters. And obviously, should the applicant gain consent, they would have to sort that out before they progressed. And obviously some arrangements would need to be come forward with the landowner should there be issues there. So you can put that to one side really and concentrate on the planning issues.
That's really helpful then, just to clarify. So the landscape, and we're looking at the track that's currently being used anyway, being formalised.
That's correct. And obviously it would serve that small garage now as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I also just say that when the application first came in, the applicants had signed certificate A, but through the course of the application, they've since signed certificate B and served notice on the landowner. And the landowner relates to the lane. So, you know, in planning terms, that's all been sorted out because, you know, notice has been served on some of on the landowners which aren't the applicant. So yeah, but purely from our perspective, it's to do with the character of the area, the factors in the countryside, and neighbourly issues in terms of potential disturbance to the occupants at Milroy. They're the two main issues.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Councillor Tudor.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mould, you're next.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can I just have some clarification that this footbridge, this is part of the application, what we are approving today. Now, can I just, this footbridge, was this part of the original application and there, or is that something that's been put there and we are now asking to approve it today? And can I also confirm that if the footbridge was not there, would there then not be any foot access onto the garden? You'd have to go out and around. Would you have to go out of their drive and turn right to come in? Is this, so that's made a foot access where there wasn't one before? I'm sorry if that doesn't make sense, but I'm just trying to ascertain was there any foot access from the house to this piece of ground before the bridge was built? That's more like it, I think.
Yeah, no, there was no foot access, and you can see from this photograph that the land levels are different. Can you see my pointer?
Yes.
See where you're coming from, and I can see exactly what you're saying, but I just wanted to ascertain when that house was built, there was no foot access to that land.
Yeah, the approval for the house did not contain the footbridge, and there was no link from the house to the field.
So we're now asking, so today this bridge is part of our consideration.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yes.
Fine, thank you.
It's probably worth clarifying that they could obviously put some steps in from the garden into this field also, but that wouldn't require consent.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I don't have any other indications for questions. Can you concur, Vice Chairman, please?
Yes, I can, Chairman.
Right, thank you. Then we move into debate, and I don't think you need any more clarity from Mr. Stevenson, which we normally do at this point, because you've had that. But please shout if you do. Right, who wishes to start the debate, please? Gosh, you're all very reticent this morning. We need somebody to start that debate, please. Lovely. Like
yes,
buses.
you've got 3, Chairman.
Yeah, 3 come at once. So I've got, I'm not sure if Councillor Mould is still there from the last time of speaking, or if that's a new one. Councillor Mould, have you just indicated?
No, it's new, Madam Chair, thank you.
Right. Okay, thank you. You're first then, and then Councillor Batters and Councillor.
Yeah, I'm not going to keep you. I just want to say why I'm not going to support this today. I'm not going to support this because I actually do think if there should have been garage arrangements, it should have been done with the first application, and I just see this as a precedent for something coming up the tracks. And I just think that you know, I could just see an application coming back in 2 years' time for a garage to turn into something else, and then we are really pushing into the countryside. So I won't be supporting this application. But it is not. But it's not a proposal at this moment for refusal. I like to listen to everybody else.
Understand. Thank you very much. Councillor Batters, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chair. With the reluctance of anyone else to come on board, I was simply going to come on to start the ball rolling by saying that I will support this application. I've heard what's been said, the detail given by the planning officers, and I'm fully happy to support it as it's been recommended.
And is that a proposal, Councillor Batters?
Yes, happy to propose it. I only came on because of the reluctance of anyone else, but fine, yes, I'm happy to propose it because that's what I would have supported.
Right, thank you. Now I'm looking for a seconder before we move on to further debate. Let me ask those who have already indicated. Councillor Kenny, would you wish to second that?
Wish isn't exactly the word I would use, but I will second that. I would say to Councillor Mould and to Councillor Tudor that planning makes one very cynical, but we can only look at what is in front of us. I'm fairly familiar with the policy that does protect any further development in the countryside on a site like this. Doesn't mean to say we won't get something through, but I think the policy is strong enough to defeat it. So reluctantly, on paper, providing a garden for a house that's got permission is a very reasonable thing, and I just can't see us defending not granting it at appeal.
Thank you. Before we move anywhere towards the vote, let me deal with the other people that have asked to speak. Councillor Tudor, you're next, please.
Yeah, I feel that we've sort of been brought into a bit of another argument here, and I'm very conscious that we should look at the considerations the planning officer told us to look at. Landscape, which I feel all those concerns have been mitigated by the applicant, and formalising access, which is presently being used anyway by both houses. I thought I was actually surprised this has reached the point of coming to the committee, seeing as the parish council. So anyway, I am surprised about that. But like Councillor Kenny said, it does make us cynical, doesn't it here? But we can't. We have to look at what's in front of us, don't we? As I'm often reminded. So I would support this application.
Thank you. Vice Chairman, you're next, please.
Thank you. I start off by saying I've every sympathy with Councillor Dyer's position on this. I think it's a very unfortunate situation that the planning committee is being put into to try and address something which they have no control over. Now, it seems to me from what has been said by the various speakers that certifications have been issued, so the application is fully legalized and we have to consider it as a valid application. It has been verified and we have to consider it. Now, I'm fully aware that the lane is a consideration that we have no part in. So therefore, I very reluctantly will support the application as set out, Chairman. I think we mustn't be put off course by something which is not in our jurisdiction and is a civil matter. So I will support.
Yes, we are being drawn into a civil matter. So thank you very much, Councillor Greenslade. Now, I see no further indication. Can you concur on that, please?
Chairman, it's Emma Code.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, it's Emma Code, Democratic Officer. I just wanted to highlight John Dyer, Councillor, has raised his hand, but as we're in debate, as division member, he's no longer able to speak on the item.
Yes.
Hands gone down, by the way.
That's right. Perhaps you could lower your hand, please, Councillor Dyer. Sorry.
It's gone down.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Nothing further, Chairman. Nothing
further. Right, then we move to the vote, and we have a proposal for approval as set out, proposed by Councillor Batters, seconded by Councillor Kenny. Emma, would you like to take the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll do an alphabetical roll call if you could indicate whether you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Alvey.
For.
Councillor Batters.
For.
Councillor Bull.
For.
Councillor Greenslade.
For.
Councillor Jewell.
For.
Councillor Kenny.
For.
Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor Mould.
Against.
Councillor Simmons.
Against.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor Tudor.
For.
Councillor Williams.
Reluctantly for.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that the motion to approve has been carried by 10 votes in favour with 2 against and no abstentions.
Thank you very much. It's now 11:37, so if we have a 10-minute comfort break now, is 10 minutes long enough for you all?
Yes.
Yeah, then we come back at 10 to 12. Yes?
Chairman, meeting producer Rowena Bradley, can I say before members leave that during the break the live stream does remain live, so please can members mute their microphones and turn the cameras off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie, just before you go, could I catch you for a moment?
You could, the live stream is on.
Yeah, no, it's nothing to do with that. I was just seeing what your whereabouts was later on.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm at home all day, Matt, if you want to speak. Okay.
Yeah, I'll contact you later on then. Thank you.
Chairman, it's Rowena Bremner, meeting producer. Do you wish to have a roll call for the members of the committee?
I think that would be a good idea, please, Rowena. I'm making it still 11:49.
I'm sorry, what time did you say we would resume?
11:50.
Sorry, my apologies, Chairman.
No problem. Right, it's 11:50 now, Rowena. Committee members should be back. If you'd like to do a roll call.
Okay. Councillor Ball.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Greenslade.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Alvey.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Batters.
Yes, present and saluting, but you can't see me.
Thank you. Councillor Dyer.
It's a blessing.
Councillor Dyer, can you confirm you're back from the break, please? I'll come back to him. Councillor Jewell.
Yes, I'm Mr. Jewell here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
Yes, present.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Yes, present, correct.
Thank you. Councillor Moult.
Yes, present.
Thank you. Councillor Simmons.
Yes, present.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Yes, present.
Thank you. Councillor Tudor.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And Councillor Dyer, can you confirm you're present, please?
I saw Councillor Dyer just now. His picture came up, so I think he is there. Councillor Dyer, can you unmute?
Yeah, I thought I did.
No.
Thank you.
Right.
That's confirmed, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. We'll move swiftly on to our last agenda item. Agenda item 4.3, PA 20-04346, Mr. Fritz at Moller, 15 Polkert Hill, Mevagissey, demolition of structurally unsafe dwelling and construction of new dwelling. The case officer is Ellie Jolliffe. Thank you, Ellie.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Well, I can, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Morning or afternoon even. All right, so the application seeks approval of the demolition of a structurally unsafe dwelling and construction of a new dwelling on the same footprint. The key issues here are the impact upon the conservation area, design of the replacement dwelling, and impact upon neighbours. So this slide here shows the location of the site on Polkert Hill, and this is central to Mevagissey. This slide shows the application site within the wider context of the conservation area and its relationship to listed buildings. And here is just the aerial of the dwelling. So the block plan shows the footprint of the dwelling that adjoins the road and its associated amenity space to the rear. The existing plans show the internal layouts here and the existing elevations, and this here is the building to be demolished. So as you can see, the dwelling is to have broadly the same proportions as the existing building, but with some improvements to the property. The proposal reinstates the stonework to the ground floor as a means of... Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I can.
Sorry, I just had a little beep. Sorry, so retaining the historic fabric, which could have otherwise been lost. And we've got new timber windows, which have a vertical emphasis in replacement of the horizontal UPVC windows. I'll just go back and show the difference. So here you can see the UPVC windows and the new windows. So these new details are seen as more appropriate for the setting of the conservation area. This photo here shows 15 Polecat Hill as labelled and its relationship to the adjoining property, Whalebone Cottage. And here's just from another angle coming up from Polecat Hill. So this shows the existing rear of number 15, and as you can see, the roof is in quite a poor state of repair.
What?
These photos show the relationship to number 13, and this is a picture taken from standing in the garden of number 15. So it is officers' view that there is already a mutual lack of privacy, and this therefore minimises concerns of overlooking from the new openings, because of course you've got quite a lot of outlook across both properties already. And again, this is the standing from the garden looking into Whalebone Cottage. So of course you can see the openings there and the garden. So overall, the proposal does not introduce material harm to the occupiers of neighbouring properties in terms of overbearing, overlooking and/or loss of light impacts. This proposal would result in less than substantial harm to the surrounding conservation area and setting of nearby Grade 2 listed buildings by reason of the complete demolition of the existing building and associated loss of historic fabric and character, though it is adjudged that the public benefits associated with the reinstatement of a well-designed home in a settlement outweighs the limited harm to the designated heritage assets. The replacement dwelling will result in a higher quality home, which will result in a visual enhancement to the area, and therefore I am recommending conditional approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have no resident wishing to speak in objection, but we do have Councillor John Gann of Mevagissey Parish Council speaking in objection. Councillor Gann, are you on the line and can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Thank you. Again, we've had a little bit of problem this morning with quietness on the telephone. You're fairly quiet. I wonder if we could ask you to speak up as you do your 3 minutes, please.
I will try.
Thank you. Can everyone hear Councillor Gann? Vice Chairman, how are you hearing that?
Pretty good, Chairman. Thank you.
Good. Okay, thank you. Right then, Councillor Gann, you have 3 minutes and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain.
Thank you. My name is John Gann. I'm a chartered surveyor with over 30 years experience in property, and I'm speaking on behalf of Mevagissey Parish Council. I firstly say that the neighbour hasn't been able to comment on this application or speak at this meeting because he's due to ill health and he's due an operation in Trelisk imminently. To assist in the understanding of this matter, a note was circulated to members on Friday. Work started on this property in February, although there was no building regulations application or planning application submitted at this time. The Parish Council did offer to meet the application to review the application, but the meeting was cancelled by the applicant at short notice. This application has many serious flaws, in fact. Despite the change in description, you will note that the latest drawings now include in the notes section that states the building will not be built on the existing footprint in respect of the south/rear elevation. It is a matter of fact that if one wall out of 4 walls to create the property can move, at least 2 others must also change in length, so the footprint will change. The proposed elevations show heights and finished floor levels, but no datum point, so these are also subject to significant interpretation. The existing elevations still do not show the roof structure and relationship with number 17 in terms of construction method, the significant overlooking or land ownership, which is relevant as it will impact on what can actually be constructed in this conservation area. The photographs submitted clearly show this. It also shows that despite the case officer's comments that the roof hasn't changed shape due to its condition. Without properly documented designs, there are real concerns that the adjoining property will be compromised in terms of structure and visual impact to the conservation area. What has been missing has been no engineer with conservation experience that has inspected this property with a view to preserving it, and no one with conservation experience working with the applicant on the scheme. Hence the lack of a heritage impact assessment, and the suggestion to retain the ground floor walls by the engineer has been ignored. The proposed condition is also illogical. Condition 3, if demolition is required urgently, why have materials not been agreed and made public already? Condition 4, the parish council has been asking for details around construction management since July, and given the difficulties in obtaining professional documentation to date, it seems unlikely that documentation will suddenly now appear. In short, with so many unknowns and errors in drawings and documents, it's hard to see how this application could have been properly assessed and deemed acceptable in planning or conservation terms. It's entirely foreseeable that this unnecessary demolition project will cause a significant and avoidable disruption to the community, huge impact on the neighbour, and permanent harm to the conservation area. We would respectfully ask that you refuse this application, and will happily answer any questions members may have.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gann. Are there any questions, please? And Councillor Tudor, you've come in first, please. Councillor Tudor, I think you're muted.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Yep.
And now.
Thanks. No, I just wanted to ask what your opinion would be if the property's left as it is. Is it likely to fall down anyway?
I think building control had inspected it and said that it's not in imminent danger of falling down. It clearly is in need of repair and improvement, but the property was purchased last year in its condition, and some works that have already been undertaken, I doubt, have improved its condition. So yes, it's about what will be replacing it that is actually buildable, and there's fears that it will actually impact onto the adjoining property very significantly.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other. Councillor Mould.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I just confirm that you're, as a parish council, you're clearly not saying that you don't agree with this being rebuilt or redeveloped. It's just the way it's developed, and is it basically the design or the fact that we actually haven't got a clear way forward at this point?
I think there's been nobody has looked from an engineering point of view and conservation experience to see how these buildings can be saved, and we've got a number of experienced builders in the village who have done similar exercises on similar buildings, and obviously each building's unique. So the parish council is very supportive of bringing these older buildings back into use. But if you were to demolish every one which needed modernising, the character of Mevagissey would have been lost years ago. So it's about trying to retain the fabric of the surrounding street scene, etc. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and maybe exploring further the engineer's report that said that the ground floor walls could be retained as they are structurally acceptable.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Thank you. Vice Chairman, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the gentleman said that there would be irreparable damage to the conservation area if this building was taken down and the proposal built in its place. But I wonder if you could sort of explain to me how you think it would be a huge damage to the conservation area. It appears to me to be not quite like for like, but pretty much.
I think that's the problem, is that the drawings that have been put before the officers and the committee don't actually reflect the very unique character of this building, and that its shape, its roof design is very unusual. That isn't reflected in the drawings, and I think the concern that the parish council have is that if you don't have a set of drawings and plans that show the start position, because it is directly connected to another very old and building which is not in a great state of repair as well, without clear plans as to how that's going to be constructed together, that you could end up with either a reapplication or negotiations taking place to build something which will change quite dramatically from what exists, and therefore that's where the damage would continue, because there isn't enough clarity about what's being proposed and what's actually buildable.
Thank you. Thank you.
John Thank
Dyer has raised his hand, Chairman.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I've got Councillor Batters next, and then we'll go to Councillor Dyer.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Gann, what might your comments be in relation to Cornwall Council's historic environmental planning officer's comments or report saying there is sufficient justification to take down the building to the first floor level? What's your comment on that, please?
I think initially that wasn't their comments initially, and those comments then varied without any further engineering input. The only information we had was that the building control officer had looked at the property and said that it wasn't in a state of immediate risk of collapse. But I think, yes, even to retain the ground floor walls, those ground up to first floor, would at least be an improvement and might then also shorten the development programme for the whole scheme and therefore minimise disruption and provide some support to the adjoining property. So that might be a compromise.
If I could just follow up on that, Chair, and say that you mentioned this disruption. You mean disruption to the town of Foy? Town of Mevagissey in the road outside. You mean?
Yes, there was talk of a road closure for up to 6 months, but it's also really.
Wouldn't that be likely anyway? Wouldn't that be likely anyway for any development?
We don't know because we haven't been shared plans. But obviously, if you're demolishing less and rebuilding less, then hopefully the programme of construction might be shorter. But it's also very much the impact on property number 17 next door, which hasn't been properly surveyed and understood. So that we're just
I think I've got the answer I wanted.
Okay,
thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Dyer, you've got a question? Like to unmute, Councillor Dyer? Hello, Councillor Dyer, I think you're muted.
Confirmed.
Councillor Dyer, would you like to unmute?
I've done it, haven't I?
Yeah, you have now.
Wonderful, wonderful.
You've got a question.
It's so confusing because when you're told to mute, the thing is clear, and when you're told to unmute, it's got a line through it. So it's a different pattern from the Zoom meetings that we use for parish council meetings, but that's another story.
Right.
It would look nicer, Madam Chairman, if the finish of the house that is to be rebuilt, which is number 15, of course, has the same stone finish, which I would like to think was granite, but I'm not sure from just a brief look at it, as the same stone finish as the adjoining house.
Councillor Dyer, can I stop you? I think that's a really good point, but it's a point for the planning officer. We're on questions to the Speaker of Mevagissey Parish Council.
I'm questioning the applicant on his choice of words.
This isn't the applicant, Councillor Dyer. This is Mevagissey Parish Council. I'll come back to you in a minute when the agent has spoken. I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Right, now we've got Councillor Kenny. You're next, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. I've looked very closely at the email that was sent out, which is very useful. But there seem to be two different issues. One is, can you actually demolish this and rebuild it and not damage number 17 and number 13, if I got the right numbers right, which is actually a completely different issue. So if you could, and there was no trouble and they're not going to block the road, because clearly there's nothing more irritating than building on a road, and it's a terrible road, that Falkirk Hill, so it will totally stop the traffic. That's not really what we can look at. What are your views actually on the design of the building and how it fits into the conservation area?
I think the design to the front and side elevations are very similar, and some of the timber windows to replace UPVC obviously is a welcome improvement. I think the concern is that because of the drawings and the design of the overall structure, not even recognising that the property isn't broadly square, is that this may not actually be constructable because it's so closely tied to number 17.
That is it, and I thought the picture of the roofs was fascinating. So yeah, but that isn't, yes, so I understand. So you don't have any objection to the design per se, it's merely the fact that you're very concerned about the effect on the adjacent buildings that might be at risk.
Yes, and the design to accommodate those problems, the design I could foresee could easily end up changing because to accommodate construction issues, which will be under some pressure because number 17 only has a very thin wall to the external elements at the moment.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other indication for questions. Would you agree, Vice Chairman?
There is a hand raised, but I think Councillor Dyer's is still raised.
Right, Councillor Dyer, I'm assuming. Yeah, right, thank you. Then thank you very much for joining us, Councillor Gann. And we move on to hearing from Mr. Lee Price, who's the agent on this application. Mr. Price, are you there?
Yep, good afternoon, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Lovely. Right, Mr. Price, you have 3 minutes to state the case, please, and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to start with a brief rundown of the structural defects we've found within the building and give you a bit better idea of what there is. So the building consists of a rear stone wall with a significant inward lean, which is bearing onto rotten timbers at the party wall. To rectify this inward lean would require deconstruction of the stone wall down to ground floor level. At the moment, we have scaffolded this and put preventative measures in place, which is why the building isn't in immediate danger of collapse. The gable end of the property from first floor level up consists of a single skin blockwork construction, which is poorly constructed and not tied into the stone wall at the rear or the roadside external wall. This wall is in danger of collapse as described in the structural report. There are large cracks in this wall visible from both inside and outside of the property, which demonstrates the wall and chimney are buckling. Immediately adjacent to this building, approximately 1 metre away, is a listed heritage asset, which is currently residentially occupied. The front roadside of the wall, again from first floor level up, consists of single skin block work that is load bearing from the roof trusses and doesn't appear to be adequately tied into the other structure. The remaining wall is a timber lath and plaster party wall which adjoins 17 Polkert Hill, a property which is showing significant signs of disrepair, which in the rear corner alongside the stonework wall has been subject to a constant wet environment causing severe rot into the timbers. The lintels, which have been used throughout the property over all windows, are insufficient and inadequate to take the loads that they are imposed on them, and to this nature, some of the windows are prevented from opening. My clients have liaised with the neighbours from both sides of the property, 13 and 15, and informed them of all their intentions. In addition to this, 2 party wall surveyors were appointed and all necessary statements of works and plans provided as requested by the surveyors. My clients have put funds into an escrow account to cover against anything unforeseen. All party wall awards have been granted and supplied to all 3 interested parties. We have never disputed that renovation of the property wasn't an option, but due to the numerous obvious large number of structural failure points within the building, this would not be feasible. There would be huge risks to anyone working within the building due to the risk of collapse on all sides. To mitigate against these risks would require extensive internal and external scaffolding being erected to ensure the building is correctly supported for the duration of the works. Unfortunately, to do this effectively would mean permanent closure of Polkert Hill for the duration of the works, as the scaffolding would need angled props at 45 degrees down to the highway. This would block the emergency services should an emergency occur in the vicinity of Polkert Hill. The plan we have proposed removes the risk, ensuring that the safety of the public and neighbouring properties is quickly re-established. Because the property will be deconstructed in even stages down, this means the gantry scaffolding, which has been fully designed and submitted to Highways and the local planning authority, alongside extensive traffic management plans, would be sufficient. This would also enable permanent access for emergency service being maintained, and the general public would be only prevented between pre-agreed times.
3 minutes, Chairman.
Thank you.
The road would also be
Thank you. No, and I'm afraid you have to stop, Mr. Price. Sorry, I'm only allowed to give you the 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, perhaps you stay online though to see if there are any questions. Thank you. And the first question is from Councillor Alvey, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I don't know if the speaker actually heard the parish council representative speaking beforehand, but there appears to be a discrepancy between the plans that you've submitted as to particularly the shape of the roof and the fact that actually you're going to be not now building on the original footprint. I wonder if you could clarify and explain that, please.
Well, I'd like to dispute that, because immediately on the gable end of the building there is an alleyway which is a permanent right of access. To the front of the building is the highway. It's immediately on the highway, and to the rear of the property the permanent access continues. So there is nowhere that we can physically go, and it's already a very small footprint. So there is actually nowhere that we can make this any larger than what's already there. It's a very tight site.
And the roof?
The roof will be the same. There obviously in its proximity, there's no way of us getting up to visibly see the roof. But yeah, there is, and we will go and make all efforts to put back what is there and be in compliance.
But that isn't what your plans are showing. That's the query, is that the plans that you're showing don't reflect the rather characteristic shape of the roof.
Okay, sorry to so we would be in talks to re-establish the roof as it is. That is not an issue.
But that isn't the plans that you're showing. That's the point I'm making, is that the plans that you presented don't replace the roof like for like. So clearly, if you were to build as per plans, you wouldn't be replacing it like for like.
It would just be a gable to gable, well, gable to party wall.
Okay, I think we've probably gone as far as we're going to.
Yes, I don't quite understand that answer either, because there's a very characteristic roof that's being queried, isn't there? Councillor Dyer, I'm going to come back to you a minute, because you wanted to ask a question of the agent, didn't you? Would you like to unmute, Councillor Dyer?
Have I done it?
Yes, you have.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Madam Chairman. You're very kind. To go back to Councillor Alvey's question, the roof would blend in so much better if it blended in with the roof of the immediate joining neighbour there, where there's a gap down by the bottom edge of the roof with the neighbour, and it would look better if they were one continuous roof all the way along, and so much easier to control the egress of water, rain or wind blown, that would affect the neighbouring property. But that's an observation, as is the rest of my content. I've looked at the lower floor stonework, and it would look so much nicer if you continued the stonework right up to the eaves, so you haven't got that painted wall in a street scene that seems to be I assume granite stone, but granite comes in many different colourings, because the deeper down the quarry you take the stone from, the whiter or clearer or lighter the stonework becomes. Up the top it can be brown or varied colours, and as you go down through quarry, so the stonework becomes lighter, and that's an observation. That's all.
We'll ask the agent to respond to your point,
Thank you,
Councillor Dyer, because we're in questions. So perhaps you'd like to respond to that, please.
Okay, so what was the question about retaining stonework?
The question, sorry, did you not hear the question? It was about saying the design could be improved upon by adjoining roofs with the next door, but also querying why the design didn't make more use of stonework throughout the building.
Well, we've worked with the parish and the LPA and the Conservation Office throughout the whole of design, and these points haven't been raised. My clients are open to anything that would work with yourselves and conditions. I'm happy to talk about it. It's never been an issue.
Right, thank you, Councillor Dyer. The planning officer will have heard that, so we'll leave that one there. I've got 2 more people with questions. Councillor Kenny, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sort of really carrying on the theme from Councillor Alvey's questions. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the email that's been sent around. There's a really fascinating picture of how the 3 roofs relate at the moment, and I have to say I don't agree with Councillor Dyer. The roof is unique, and I would be very unhappy to see it squared off. There is a very real concern. I don't know if you listen to the parish councillor, but there's a very real concern that the plans aren't sufficient to reassure anybody that the next door houses are not going to be affected by this build. And I'm not sure whether that is actually a planning issue anyway, but there is a real concern. So what sort of precautions and plans have you got to preserve the integrity of the neighbouring buildings?
Well, we're going to have a block party wall built up, which is all this has been approved by 2 party wall surveyors. We've sent them all the details. We have an escrow account which has funds in it should any damage be sustained to number 17. We have a blockwork timber wall, which will be tying the timber wall into. So we will be stiffening that wall up throughout its whole height. And all these plans have been submitted, and we do have a party wall notice in place to this effect, and it has been agreed with the neighbour at 17.
I think we can agree it's going to be very difficult. No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Vice Chairman, I see you had a question and you're content to withdraw that, are you?
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah, right, thank you. I have no other questions indicated. Would you concur with that, please?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, thank you. Then in that case, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Price. We now move on to hearing from Councillor Mustoe. Can you hear us, Councillor Mustoe?
I can hear you, Chair.
Lovely, thank you. You know the rules by now. You'll be asked to sum up after 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair, and nice to see you all today, councillors. This is a very unusual application for me. It's the first time in my 6 years as a councillor that an officer has called in an application. Normally they're trying to stop me calling them in. This application and its handling has caused a great deal of concern in Mevagissey and Portmelon. In short, this application has many flaws. The papers before you today show that it is accepted that the drawings provided for this application have significant errors, that there is no heritage information, which is a requirement of paragraph 189 of the National Planning Policy Framework, and also as stated a requirement by the Conservation Officer. Given the, they said, given the practical challenges of demolition and the heritage impact, an engineer report has not been commissioned to look at how the building can be retained. This was requested by the Conservation Officer back in August, who said a comprehensive professional structural report is required to demonstrate that the building is not capable of sympathetic repair, upgrading and restoration, but this has not been supplied. There are no details about the materials to be used. It is extremely unusual to put an application forward for approval in a conservation zone with this information missing and marked under conditions. The drawings provided for the application will continue to be riddled with inaccuracies, as highlighted by Councillor Gann. The report today, before you today says that the planning officer has taken assurances from the agent that the details shown on the proposed drawings would fit into the application site, despite the latest proposed drawings clearly stating that the south rear wall will not be built on the existing footprint of the site. And Highways have raised serious concerns about the lack of information submitted around the proposed construction of this building. In particular, Highway said in an email of the 23rd of October that following a review of this proposal and the detailed responses both from the parish council and the local member, that it was considered appropriate to seek a fully detailed demolition phase and construction phase traffic management plan. She said, you will note that some of what of what is being asked for would commonly fall beyond the scope of planning or indeed involve additional comms not normally facilitated, but she believed this to be a fairly unique situation which, judged on its own merits, warrants the action. To date, the applicant has provided only a document on the 29th of October which simply does not address these concerns, just reiterates what they have provided earlier. This road is the main route of access between Mevagissey and Portmelon. The applicant has tried to push through a road closure under dubious means several times through this process before planning permission has been granted. It is vital to our communities that this application is considered in its wider context. Closing this road for months on end might be most convenient for the applicant, but it is simply not for the community. Councillors, I regret that this application has been called in because I believe the planning officers, who I have a great deal of sympathy for, have been put under a great deal of pressure to progress with this application. Just because the applicant wants to demolish this building and close this vital road for longer than it has ever been closed does not mean that corners should be cut and significant information not taken into account when coming to a decision on this application. I urge you to object to this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Councillor Mustoe, please? Councillor Kenny, you're first, please.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused about what you're saying. I totally agree with you. I was going to query, and maybe very much will query, the reason for calling it in is the fact that it's deteriorating condition. Are you saying that had the officer approved the build with additional conditions that you wouldn't have objected to it? Because you appear to be now saying you're going to object to it under all whether the conditions were there or not.
I think that, as Councillor Gann has said, that there hasn't been sufficient information provided for us to make for myself to say whether the officers should be recommending or not recommending this. I think at the moment, I mean, this application has been around since July, I think, when the parish council first objected to it, and they haven't actually come back with sufficient information to enable an informed decision to be made.
So you would have called this in under the basis that they have recommended it for approval?
I think I would have called it in. I think I would have. Normally, I'm all up for seeking a compromise and trying to find a workable way forward. But as it stood, I didn't think the application as set out, I wasn't given the option to call it in. I was told that an officer was calling it in.
Right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Councillor Mustoe, just a quick question really. Whether this house is renovated from the ground floor up or whether it is demolished, and presumably you agree that something has to be done given the condition, then isn't the road closure likely to be similar?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is a really interesting one. I think some of you might recall, people who were on the planning committee in the last council, that we had a similar application for a much larger property up the hill, number 49, I think it was, Polkett Hill, that was demolished and is awaiting a rebuild. Now that was demolished and very quickly, with a limited road closure taking place over the space of a week. Now this application has been put in saying that they want to close it for up to 6 months, which, I mean, as any of you are familiar with Mevagissey and Portmelon would know, it's a road that really shouldn't be closed for that amount of time. There's a 12-mile round trip from Portmelon through Goran and to get to Mevagissey on the other side, and there's obviously essential services in the village. There's and if there's a high easterly wind and a high tide, then that would cut off the road in Portmelon, so people on the Portmelon Park and so on of Portmelon would actually be stranded. So I think my concerns would be that they haven't approached they've approached the demolition and the road closure with the aspect of, what's easiest for them rather than actually what's easiest for the whole community. And a larger building just up the hill was demolished with a much quicker road closure, and it was done, very well.
Well, thank you. And we can ask the planning officer in a minute how much material planning consideration that the committee should give to that point. Vice Chairman, you've got a question?
Yes, please, on the content of Councillor Mustoe's statement, really, Chairman, if I may.
Yeah,
I think I was right in hearing that James said road closure obtained by devious means. Now, I think that's a pretty corrosive statement to make. I wonder if you could justify that wording, or perhaps tone it down a bit, please.
Yeah, certainly. Sorry, and I apologise for the words dubious means, but basically we were told at various points that a road closure was taking place, and I had to ask various people from within Cormac and within Cornwall Council to work together to actually understand that the road closure couldn't take place before the planning permission was put in place. It led to the intervention on this by Steve Double MP following his being contacted by residents and the parish council, but I think it was understood that they couldn't close the road before they actually got the planning permission, which is what looked to be likely to happen at one point before we got Cormac and Cornwall Council working together. But I'm sure the planning officer would be happy to comment on that if requested.
Yeah, thank you. We will ask the planning officer, because looked to be likely to happen. It's not quite the same as happened. Right. Are you content with that reply, Vice Chairman?
Well, I didn't hear any retraction of that statement.
That is up to Councillor Mustoe.
I realise that, Chairman.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Another question from Councillor Mould, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi. Can you just explain to me what it is that the parish council are actually going to be happy to see? Now, clearly this place has to be either knocked down, rebuilt, or are you actually saying that the plans that we are looking at today cannot be built because of X, Y, Z, or that it needs to go away and come back with a better set of plans that everybody is happy with? It seems to me that because this building isn't square, they're trying to build something square, and so in actual fact it cannot be built on the way it is said it's going to be built. And this, I think we're going back to where Councillor Elvey came from in the very beginning, and it seems to be somewhere where we're not really getting a consensus. So I just quite like your view on it, James, please.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, I can't give a view on behalf of the parish council, but I think essentially you're going back to what Councillor Alvey said, and I think Councillor Kenny continued in that line that what they're proposing at the moment is essentially to sort of put a square peg in a round hole. That the plans that they're putting forward aren't suitable for that site. They won't physically fit into that site, and there are also all sorts of issues around the roof line and the building itself, I think, that are being sort of put through without consideration being given as to the detail of it. I think the parish council and myself would be happy with a sympathetically not rushed through design with proper drawings and everything else to actually show the plans and how the building fits both into the site and into the wider area, and then along with that a actually properly done construction traffic management plan in order to facilitate the least amount of disruption for Polkett Hill, Mevagissey and Portmelon.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't see any further questions indicated. Can you concur, Vice Chairman?
Yes, I can, Chairman.
Lovely, thank you. Then thank you very much, Councillor Mustoe.
Thank you.
We move on to questions of the planning officer, please. Who wishes to start that? Councillor Alvey, you were first, please. Would you like to ask your question?
Thanks, Chair. And I don't know if this is more for the planning officer or for the environment or heritage officer. I don't believe there's one present, so
no,
it's a bit difficult. Can you put some sort of sanity between what has been said by the applicants and what has been said by the parish council about the inconsistencies in the plans that have been presented, and the fact that, for example, the plans don't properly reflect the roof? I think the parish council used the word fantasy in their submission. Fictitious, sorry, work of fiction. And So how can we consider an application where there is so much inconsistency between the what would appear to be the existing building and the plans that are before us?
Hi, can you hear me? Sorry, I was having some trouble.
Yeah,
can you hear me? Lovely.
Yeah.
So I think it's a difficult one, really. We consider the plans are sufficient. As you can see here, just showing the existing plan. So you can see the existing floor plan, proposed floor plan. Now, the reason why it may seem a bit inconsistent is because of the roof profile. So potentially the shape of the roof is actually different to the shape of the floor, as you've seen from the images. I'll just go down. From where it's kind of deteriorated. Say again, sorry.
Could you go to slideshow, make it bigger?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, bear with me. So I'm just going to go back to my plans.
Thank you.
So we have had the existing plan changed. Here you can see the hipped roof and the proposed roof. Now, we've had no objections from the Historic Environment Officer with regards to the change in the roof. I'm just going to pass over to Gavin, if you don't mind, Gav, just to see if you've got anything to add to that.
Yeah, thanks everyone. So the issue on the drawings is that firstly we do have a finished floor level, so we're satisfied that the finished floor level of what the existing and what's been proposed has been evidenced sufficiently by the agent to be the same, so we know it's at the same level. We've also got dimensions on the drawing now showing the elevations, the depth and the height. They're also at the same level of the proposed and the existing. So we're satisfied that the level's the same and we're satisfied that the height and the depth's the same. So we've been given that information and we're satisfied that that's okay. What Ellie was getting to, Councillor Alvey, was and I do understand the Mevergiss Parish Council raising this as a concern, is the shape of the footprint. It's difficult for us to be 100% precise on that when the roof is an irregular shape. We've asked the agent if the footprint is correct, and you did as well, and he's confirmed it is. The size of the site itself is constrained, and we're satisfied with what's being proposed actually could be built there. On the point of the roof, you're right that the existing drawing probably doesn't show the extent of the character of the roof that would be lost. It shows it there as a small half hip, but there's actually a bit more to that. It's difficult to see from the street scene, but from those aerial photos you can see a little bit more. So that's something you'd need to consider, members, when you make a decision on this, is that we're going from a half hip to a gable on the roof, so it is changing. I think that answers the question. Is there anything else you'd like me to comment on?
Yeah, there will be in a minute, Gavin.
Okay.
But let me ask first of all if that answers Councillor Alvey's question.
I think it's provided quite a lot of clarification. It leaves me still with concern over the roof, which I now understand the anomalies. And so yeah, I think that's answered the question. I think that's the key point.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions in a minute, which I'll ask Gavin to do some clarification on. But first of all, I've got Councillor Kenny as indicated.
Thank you. I think my questions are probably for Gavin. First of all, the nature of the call-in is very unusual. That I would have thought, because it was deteriorating, you would want to get this through as soon as possible as opposed to calling it in. So that's an interesting approach, and apparently not giving the member a chance to call it in first. So I would like an explanation of that. You lost me a bit when you started talking about gables on the roof. I'm not sure what. To me, it looks like the angle of the roof of the proposed and the existing is much the same. Yeah, it might be slightly different, I guess. I'm not sure what we as are supposed to be judging, because there's obviously a huge concern that the plans aren't sufficient to assure people there's not going to be any damage to anyone next door. But I'm not sure that is something that we are able to consider. So I'd quite like a Because I think the people would prefer it to be repaired, but they're accepting the fact that it could be being rebuilt is not a bad option. There don't seem to be really any problems with the design other than the Juliet balcony that might need to be looked at. So it's really this issue of how far we as authorising plans should go in terms of the security of the houses next door. So over to you, I think, Gavin.
Before Gavin answers that, Councillor Kenny, can I unusually add to the question, because you've partly asked what I wanted to ask, which was clarification for the committee, Gavin, but there's one or two things that I've got question marks over. Can I add to Councillor Kenny's question? Is that all right?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, okay. One is time. I wonder if we've been thrown a couple of red herrings planning wise, or if we should be considering them. Road closure and the amount of time that will take. I do understand that it'll be desperately inconvenient, but also pretty inconvenient to have a dangerous structure in such a hugely used area. So should the committee be considering that? The bit about the road closure again and devious means unlikely to happen, that there would be a road closure without permission. Is the committee got anything to think about there? And the agent spoke about a sympathetic view to the roof shape and that they would in fact try to follow it. Should we condition that? Should it get permission? So there's all those things, and Councillor Kenny's question. I wonder if you could give the committee some advice, please, on all of those points.
Okay, thank you for the questions. The question about structure and safety during the build isn't controlled by planning. So I think your question, Councillor Kenny, is during the build, if there's an impact on the neighbouring property, a structural impact on the neighbouring property, or any damage caused to the neighbouring property, is that something we need to consider now? And of course it is an issue, but it's not something that planning consider. That's controlled by Building Control Service. So that's nothing that you as the decision maker today need to be advised about in terms of information or need to take into account when you make the decision. Jackie, in terms of the time of the actual build, of course, that's not something planning does control either. So we give planning commissions permissions all the time, and it's up to the people building it how long they take to do that. And I know some of you have been frustrated by the system in the past that if you start a permission, you can be 20 years down the track and still not finished it. So that's nothing that we don't control the speed of the build. The person who, if permission was granted today, they might get a team in and build it quickly, or they might get a smaller team and build it quickly. That's nothing that we consider. The issue of road closure due to health and safety during the build is also something that we don't consider at planning stage. That's controlled by different secondary legislation. That's something that our streetworks teams and highways colleagues even would need to consider. The reason why, just going back to your question, sorry, Councillor Kenny, the reason why we called this in was that we're very mindful of the condition of the existing building, and we want to get a solution. We've been trying to work, Ali and myself, with the parish council, the divisional member and the applicant to get all minds working in the same direction. We felt that a solution to that perhaps wouldn't be in the near future, so we wanted to get a decision on this condition of the building. We've got a structural report saying that it's not structurally sound at first floor. Our building control team colleagues have been out there and found that it wasn't an imminent danger, but it is a dangerous structure. So we're concerned that something needs to get done to fix this for the benefit of everyone, and so we felt it would be better to bring it to committee for everyone to have their say, and for you collectively as a planning committee to make a decision on it. I hope that's helpful. Is there anything else I've missed?
So effectively what you're saying is that you really want us to concentrate on the key planning issues, and that is it a suitable design? I mean, do they have the right to knock it down as opposed to repair it, and is it a suitable design for the area? And that's all we should be considering.
Yes, please, that would be fantastic.
That's really helpful. don't see any other questions indicated. Would you confirm, Vice Chairman?
Yes, Chairman, I confirm.
Thank you. Right then.
Jackie, sorry to interrupt. Should I just exit this screen now?
You can, or you can leave it there for debate, whichever you.
Yeah. Okay. I'll leave it out.
It's Emma Code. I noticed Councillor Mould has an X in the chat box.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I do apologise, Councillor Mould. Do always shout if I miss someone.
No, not at all. That's fine. Gavin actually did answer a couple of my questions, but could we just flip back to the slide where we have the drawings, please? Where we have the
proposed.
Yeah.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah. It's very small print there, but does that on section 2 say these plans are for planning purposes and are not a build drawing? Now, isn't this exactly where this issue lies for me? This is what they'd like to do, but it is not a build drawing. And the answer, the query seems to be, can you actually fit this design on that space? And I think that's the bottom line for me, but maybe I've got this completely wrong and Gavin can shed a bit of light.
I hope so. So this is what's been submitted for us to consider today. If in this scenario that you as a planning committee felt it to be acceptable, we condition these drawings. So they need to be in accordance with these drawings, and if it transpired that they weren't in accordance with these drawings, I know you're all aware of the consequence of that. We'd need to investigate down the normal way of our enforcement procedure. So the thing is, Councillor Mould, on this one, we have asked many questions to the planning agent about the details you and other members have been asking us on the accuracy of these drawings, and they're reassuring us that they are correct, and we're giving weight to their professional knowledge. And it feels to us as planning officers looking at that you should be able to do something very similar, if not exactly the same as this. So to put your mind at rest, if you were to grant approval today, these are the drawings that would be officially with the planning permission, that design, and that's what they'd need to build. If they couldn't do it, they'd have to come in for another solution in the normal way.
Fine, thanks Gavin, very much.
Thank you, Councillor Mould. Gavin, I do have one other question floating through my mind.
Okay.
This feels to me very much like one of the applications where more work is needed to bring all parties together. It feels almost as if we're an almost there but not quite there application. How would you respond to that point?
Yeah, I wish that I also had that feeling, Councillor Bull, some weeks ago, thinking that we could hopefully get everyone together on this. I don't know if we can, and that's again why we brought it to planning committee. We feel that we just need to draw a line under it and make a decision for the benefit of everyone. It's been ongoing for weeks, months, and we weren't getting a decision, and that's why we brought it to planning committee. I'm very mindful of the state of the existing building, and we think this design is acceptable, and we're hoping that you do too. And I think if we did get that steer from planning committee today, hopefully we could work together to get an improvement to the conservation area.
Right, and what stopped? You said you thought about getting everyone to work together on it a few weeks back. What prevented that happening?
We certainly tried to get everyone together on it. There just wasn't a consensus of opinion. It felt like it was going nowhere. Time was ticking and we weren't getting answers. So we felt as planning officers we needed to move the process on quicker to get a decision.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I now have two more questions, I believe. First of all, Councillor Dyer, you have a question?
No, ma'am, just to confirm, I was only out for seconds, as they say, and I've listened to the whole debate for some time, as you and Emma should be able both to confirm.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jewell, you have a question?
Yeah, just to follow on to what you were asking, Councillor Bull, in regards to the statement from James Mustoe, that he didn't seem to think that everything had been brought together to, all the statutory bodies, like conservation, all that type of people, to bring it together. So I asked Gavin, is it fair for us to make a decision until all these things are brought together? Because surely until we know, we can't really make a decision.
Well, we always do have options to defer, don't we? But Gavin, do you want to comment to Councillor Jewell?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the question. So our heritage officers, our conservation officer, sorry, has been involved throughout this and has made comment on this and isn't raising objections. So they are aware of what's been proposed in the amended drawings. And as Ali pointed out during the presentation, or the parish council, I can't remember which one, sorry, they have changed during the processing. It started with the design that we weren't comfortable with as officers, and it's got to the point now that we are. So we're content with the design itself as suitable for this area within a sensitive designated conservation area. In terms of the suggestion that you should have a heritage impact assessment, the NPPF actually says that you should have one. You don't legally have to have one. Of course, we'd like to have a heritage impact assessment with this. We've looked at what's been proposed and what's there, and we think we've got enough information to be able to answer your questions today and answer our own questions in our mind to make an informed decision. So that's where we are. We think as officers that we do have enough information to make a decision. Thank you.
Okay.
Right, thank you very much. Right, Vice Chair again, I don't think there are any further raised hands or tips.
Councillor Jules is raised, Chairman.
He's just asked his...
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I thought there might have been a supplementary.
No, thank you. Right then, we move on into debate, members. Who would like to start this very simple one? Councillor Kenny.
Right, sort of going back to the answer to my question, I realise that there's all sorts of complications, all sorts of negotiations, all sorts of additional evidence that will be needed during the build. But if we go back to its very, very simplest idea, it's really two questions: as would we object to this being knocked down and rebuilt in a very similar form as opposed to be amending the existing one, and is the design appropriate for the area? And I think the answer to that is, well, certainly from me, is I think it's very similar, and they're trying to keep it as similar as possible. And I think, yes, I would accept the fact that trying to repair this is going to cause far more complications than it's actually than it would be by just rebuilding it. I sympathise with I'm not sure I do, because I avoid Polkert Hill like the plague. First time I had to back down it, I decided I'd never go on that hill again. So I do drive for 12 miles around getting to the various bits when I'm travelling in Mevagissey. So I am prepared to propose as set out, with the understanding that all of these outstanding questions, which I don't believe are planning committee issues, are resolved to everybody's satisfaction. So that's my proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Now I've got two other people that have indicated, and I will ask both of them first if they wish to second before I then instead open the floor to a seconder.
Second, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Thomas, that you're next. And is that you speaking? You'd like?
It is me speaking, Madam Chairman.
Yeah. Would you like to speak, Councillor Thomas?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chairman. My concern is I think we've got to discuss what's in front of us today. If the officers have tried their best to make a mutually agreed some details on this development, I think if we're going to go back to that drawing board again, we got a building here now that's recommended by the officers in a fairly deteriorated state, and the more we leave that in a situation as it is at the moment, it will definitely affect the adjoining properties from what I can see, and obviously being in the building trade. So I think, Madam Chair, we should grab the bull by the horns really on this one, and we have got to do something to preserve whatever's there at the moment. The stonework, if that's a point that people want to adhere to, that's fine, but I think we should move on, Madam Chair, and there must be ways around this to provide scaffolding and road closures through the proper channels, Madam Chairman. But I think we should get this moved on as quickly as possible, and I'll support Joanne's approval, please. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I'll keep on with the debate for a moment. Right, Councillor Martin, you're next, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I find this quite difficult. Actually, it's as you all know, aware, fishing villages, there'll be no house with any corners of 90 degrees. So in this case, we're seeing that with a sort of roof footprint to a certain extent. I really need more detail, really, to be satisfied that they've got the right application here. So I'm voting. I'll be voting against this proposal, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Vice Chairman, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to refer to the roof that exists and the proposed new roof. And I would suggest, having worked on a roof or two in varying degrees of stability, that the current roof is due to quite a few repairs over the years, and therefore it's sagged and been shored up in one place and not another. And it's created this, I would say, unique design, but it's not a design. It's something that's happened as a matter of repair work carried out. So I would fully expect a new roof to be straight and true and level, and that is what is proposed. So I have no problems with supporting this application, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Alvey, you're next, please.
Thanks, Chair, and I won't be supporting it. I would accept, and if the current proposal fails, I would be putting in a proposal to defer the application. I think the problem is we have more questions here than we have answers. There are just too many aspects of this that are not clear, and I appreciate the planner's desire to move forward with it by virtue of the state of the current dwelling and the fact that aspects of it might be becoming unsafe. But we've heard that it's in no immediate risk of collapse. So yes, if the proposal on the table fails, then I will be putting in a proposal for deferral.
Thank you, Councillor Alvey. Councillor Tudor, you're next, please.
Yeah, thanks. I agree exactly with what Councillor Alvey just said. If he is going to be putting in a proposal for deferral, then I would be happy to second that. I just think that the applicant needs to go back to a better job and come back to us again.
Thank you. Councillor Batters.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A small point about road closures. I think that that would happen in any case if the house fell down. Yes. I mean, we had one in Bodmin. One of the major roads in Bodmin was closed for something in the region of 11 months because a house collapsed. It wasn't expected to collapse. It was nowhere near probably as old as the one that we're looking at, but it did. And it closed the main road right outside of Councillor Rogerson's house, in actual fact, for some considerable time. But listening to the proposer and seconder on this, and also the comments made by Councillor Greenslade, I will be following recommendation on this one.
Thank you. Councillor Mould, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My problem with this is, you know, we have parish councils and we have divisional members, and places like Mevagissey are quite iconic and it's a bit like places like Port Isaac. And in these conservation areas, the parish councils, they feel very strongly about how they keep the look, the street scene and all that in place, because that they consider to be their job. Now, I have to agree with Councillor Alvey here. There are more questions than we have answered. And I do think we need to come back with a better way forward. And in lots of ways, deferring it doesn't solve it. It makes everybody else's job even harder. But there has to be some give here. And, you know, whilst nobody is saying that this should not be refurbished, knocked down or rebuilt, but it's how that's done and with a set of plans that everybody is happy with. Now, surely that cannot be within the remit of these people to get together and come back with something that the parish council can agree with. So I won't be supporting for approval, but I would support a deferral. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simmons, you're next, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think Councillor Alvey and Mould and Tudor have spoken what I was going to say. There just seems to be, there's something not right here. There seems to be more questions than answers, and I certainly won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I have no further indication of anyone wishing to debate. Well, Councillor Williams has put his hand up. I'm Councillor Dyer, sorry.
Well, we've been going around in circles for the last half an hour or so. I mean, I agree with what, it's a very difficult one, because I can see that they want to move on, but I have got sympathy with the local member. To close a road for 6 months when it could be planned a lot different than that. There don't need to be closed a road for 6 months to take that down. And I think more work should be done on coming back to give a proper assessment to make sure that that the people who live around Mevagissey will not have a road closed for 6 months. I think they need, and I agree with colleagues who've spoken. I want to support it, but I can't, and I can't support it on that basis because I think more consultation need to be done with all members, all people involved with this application about the actual road closure. That is a problem I have with this one. Thank you. I don't have a problem with the development. I have a problem with the road closure.
Well, the road closure is not a material planning consideration, Councillor.
Well, I have a problem that everything is not joined up. Things need to be joined together, and they're not joined up.
Right, thank you. Councillor Dyer, you're next. If you'd like to unmute, please.
Thank you. I hope I am unmuted.
You are.
Great. All I want to do is to join everybody, ask everybody to read condition number 1 on page 53. It isn't urgent, but they've got 3 years before they need to start. So I should be supporting the rejection of this proposal. It ain't logical.
Right. Okay. Then thank you for that. Do we have any other people wishing to join the debate? No, I see no further hands raised. Do you, Councillor Greenslade?
I've got no. Peter Williams is still raised, but I assume it's not put down yet.
Hello, anyone there?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Hello. Is that Jackie?
It is. Who is that, please?
Councillor Jewell. I've been locked out. It says I'm trying to get back on. I can't get on. I've just done this number.
I think that was Councillor Jewell.
That's the trouble I had earlier on, Alan.
Yeah,
how much of the application?
I can't move the mouse on my computer or get in. It says, "Oh dear, your call has dropped. Please try again." So I've just done this number and got through to you.
Well, how much of the debate do you think you've missed, Alan?
Oh no, I got right up to the open debate, Jackie.
All right.
So I think I'm in a position to make a decision. I don't know if you haven't got to the vote yet.
No, we've not got to the vote yet. Loretta, do you wish to come in on that?
Yeah, I will, but I'll have to do it just on the phone. I can't.
Yeah, no. I'm asking the legal officer to comment, Alan, on whether you can continue. Hello.
Okay. Hello. Yeah.
Loretta.
Hello. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you've asked Councillor how much of the information he has heard in the presentation, and he has given your view that he's heard the majority of the presentation. Just for clarification, if he could just repeat what he's heard, and if he feels that he's able to attend, then it sounds like he would be able to. I'd just like to just clarify further with the Democratic officer as well for the procedural side, if that's correct as well. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Chairman, it's Emma Coe, Democratic Officer. Yeah. You did, in the meeting script at the start of the meeting, you did say that members must be present for the duration of the discussion on each planning application in order to be able to vote.
Right, and have you been able to hear the discussion, Councillor Jewell?
Well, to the last two, about 3 minutes ago. It dropped out about 3 minutes ago, Jackie. I just couldn't, the blank screen's come up, and I've just managed to ring you up and got through this way.
But so you've only lost 2 to 3 minutes?
Yes, of the open debate. Yeah.
Then in that case, I think that's fine. Would you not agree, Loretta? Sorry? Loretta, would you agree with that, 2 to 3 minutes lost?
Yes, that sounds reasonable, provided that yourself, Chair, is happy and Councillor Jules feels that he's had sufficient information.
Right.
Yes,
Thank you.
I do, yeah.
Thank you. Then we go back to, were there any other hands raised? And I don't think so. Do you think so, Vice Chairman?
No, I can't see any, Chairman, but I would like to apologise to Councillor Mould. I misheard ticking the box because there were others below it and I just didn't see it. I do apologise.
Bound to happen on this kind of busy meeting. Right, we will go to the vote then. We have a proposal to approve as set out, proposed by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Emma, would you like to take the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll do an alphabetical roll call. If you could indicate whether you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Alvey.
Against.
Councillor Batters.
For.
Councillor Bull.
Against.
Councillor Dyer.
Against.
Councillor Greenslade.
For.
Councillor Jewell.
Against.
Councillor Kenny.
For.
Councillor Martin.
Against.
Councillor Mould.
Against.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor Tudor.
Against.
Councillor Williams.
Against.
And Councillor Simmons.
Against.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that the motion to approve has been lost by 4 votes in favour with 9 against and no abstentions.
Thank you. I've already had an indication, so I'm going to go back to Councillor Alvey. Thank you, Councillor Alvey. You wish to make a proposal?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that's correct. So I'd like to put a proposal that the application is deferred. Gavin might need to give us a bit of help as to how we word the deferral, but essentially I wish for there to be clarification on the plans, clarification through a heritage impact assessment, and particularly I would wish to see the construction management plan presented as part of the decision-making process rather than as a subsequent condition, because clearly a construction management that whole process links into the road closure, and I think that whilst clearly the road closure itself is something determined by Streetworks, I don't think it's unreasonable that construction management plan shouldn't be produced in such a way that minimises the length of disruption to the residents of Mevagissey and Port Mellon. So I believe that every effort should be being made in this to have a minimal road closure to build what's intended. So that's the essential reasons behind the deferral. If someone's happy to second that, and perhaps we might need to speak to the planning officer to word it in a professional planning way.
I'll go to the planning officer in a minute, Councillor Alvey, but first we're looking for a seconder.
I'm happy to second, Madam Chair. I put an X in the box. It's Carol speaking.
Oh, Carol. Councillor Mould, sorry.
Yeah, and I'm happy to second, as set out by Councillor Alvey. Thank you.
Right.
Madam Chairman, I put my hand up first, actually, but it doesn't matter. I'm quite happy to go.
Sorry, Councillor Williams.
I'm more than happy with what Martin have said fully, and I know that planning condition is not a planning reason, but it is a very important reason, and it should be part of the scheme when they actually get themselves together and work out a proper way of going about it. But apart from that, I didn't have any problem with it, apart from trying to get it working.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Then I'm going to go back to Gavin Smith. Gavin, would you like to liaise with Councillor Alvey on this, on Whirling, please?
Yeah, I think he's given me a good steer. Thank you, Councillor Alvey. I think that your message to us and the reason for deferring it is that you're not satisfied that you've got enough information to make an informed decision. And the details of that information that you are looking for regard to the clarifications of plans, in particular with regard to the irregular shape of the site and the dwelling, clarification of the heritage impact assessment, and also CTMP or construction traffic management plan. Sorry, you're requesting that one of those should be provided up front. The other messages I've got from you and your reason, I think, is that you're not satisfied that you've got enough information to make an informed decision, which is a legitimate reason. Thank you.
I think that's a summation. Councillor Alvey, can I just ask, did you want to put a time limit on this in order that it can't just drift on, that it comes back to us within, say, a couple of months?
I was going to say, I would imagine that the applicants themselves would want to get it moving as quickly as possible. And I would suggest that 3 months might be a reasonable time limit, but I'm happy to be guided by Gavin on that. And I think Gavin has summed it up very nicely. The only word I would get in there, in addition to that which Gavin suggested, is specifically mentioning the roof as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, clarity on the plans for the roof. Gavin, is it possible to put the within 3 months it comes back to us?
Yeah, anything's possible. I'm just a little bit concerned about the Christmas period and what have you. But yeah, anything's possible. Well, you know that I think there's enough information now to make a decision. So I'm hoping that with tweaks here, there, and everywhere, we might be able to get everyone on board with understanding what it is, everyone being the community. So the variable that's outside of my control is that I think you're telling me that you'd like to have the parish council satisfied with the level of information submitted also. I don't know when and how they're going to be meeting, so I don't know is the simple answer to the month. It's risky to say 3 months. My own view is that we need to do this as quickly as possible, and that's why we brought the application to committee in the first place. So we'll be pushing for that regardless.
Right, okay. Councillor Alvey, do you wish to include a time limit or not?
I'm not bothered to include a time, because, as I said, we want it to happen as expediently as possible, and ultimately the onus is on the applicant to provide the information. And I think Gavin's point that we need to ensure that the parish council are happy with what they're looking at, as well as the local member. I think those are important points, and I do take on board that we've got Christmas in the middle as well, and who knows what else is going to be thrown at us by way of pandemic disruption. So yes, I'm not exercised to put a time limit on it.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chairman, I see no other hands raised or crosses in the box. Would you concur, please?
Yes, I would, Chairman.
Right, then we move to the vote. And we have a recommendation for deferral. You've heard the reasons from both Councillor Alvey and from Gavin Smith. It's been proposed by Councillor Alvey, seconded by Councillor Mould. So the proposal is for deferral. Emma, would you like to take the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll call your names alphabetically. If you could confirm whether you're for, against, or abstaining. Councillor Alvey.
For.
Councillor Batters.
Against.
Councillor Bull.
For.
Councillor Dyer.
For.
Councillor Greenslade.
Against.
Councillor Jewell.
For.
Councillor Kenny.
Against.
Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor Mould.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
Against.
Councillor Tudor.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Councillor Simmons.
For.
Madam Chairman, could I have my name recorded, please?
Was that Councillor Thomas saying
It was
that?
Councillor Thomas, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that the motion to defer has been carried by 9 votes in favour with 4 against and no abstentions.
Thank you very much. And agenda item number 5, there is no other. Sorry, Vice Chairman, do come in.
Have mine recorded, please, as well.
And Councillor Greenslade would like his name recorded.
Might as well include me as well.
And Councillor Kenny.
So we can say we told you so.
Yeah, Chris Batters like to have his as well, please.
And Councillor Batters. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
And I'd just like to thank everyone, committee, officers, Vice Chairman, all for this. You never believe a short agenda, do you? But there is no other business of urgency, so I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
We're meeting again before Christmas.
Thank you, Jackie.
I'll get it quite when the live stream has ceased. One moment.
Sorry, Fred, you said something?
We're meeting again before Christmas.
Yes.
Chairman, it's Emma Coe, Democratic Officer. Just to say we haven't had notice yet the live stream has ended, so could we all remain on mute until that's confirmed?
I'm off now, Jackie. Okay, I'm just on the line. I'll see you in December.
Thank
okay,
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Yeah, I don't think we're saying anything wrong, Councillor